Hey guys, it's Spade Spadoodle, and we are about to do the intro for Mike Myers. And I just want to tell you, because of a huge fuck up on my part, my sound is good with my intro with Dana, and I'm hilarious. Just a side note. And we had the greatest interview, but I screwed up, and my audio isn't perfect for all you nerd robots out there. Like, I only listen for the sound quality, not for the comedy. You're not going to be stoked. You can still hear all my jokes. I had a fucking blast with Mike. I'm just going to say that we sound great at the intro. Then my sound is, you can hear everything. It's just not as perfecto. So don't freak out and don't write your local congressman. Thank you. Here's me and Dana. All right, here we go. So Dana and I,
3 minutes.
We laugh.
Yeah.
I heard a joke this weekend. I'm going to tell it to you.
I love it.
Because comedians never tell jokes, but this one isn't bad.
Okay.
This one, you can do at home, too. And I kind of mangled it. I've told it 3 times, and I've told it differently.
Okay.
But the basic idea is it's an old people's... I can't believe I'm a professional. They're 90-year-old couple, and it's their 60th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And so the wife says, get in bed. I'm gonna surprise you with something. So she goes in the bathroom. You follow so far?
Yes.
So the guy's in the bed waiting for his big surprise. So she goes in and strips naked and only puts on a cape. So she has nothing but a cape.
Got it.
So she leaps out of the bathroom, lands at the base of the bed and goes, "Soup or pussy?" And he goes, "I'll take the soup."
All right. Here's one not as funny, but nice and quick. That just generic that I use sometimes.
Okay, good.
Did you hear about the mom and the dad who found out their 10-year-old boy was visiting S&M websites?
No, I did not.
And the mom said, "What are we going to do?" And the dad said, "Well, we can't spank him."
He'll jizz.
That's nice.
What? Yeah, that's
nice
good.
and quick. I do that as Obama in my stand-up. Hear about the mom and the dad who found out their 10-year-old boy was visiting S&M websites. And the mom said, "What are we going to do?" The dad said, "Well, we can't spank him."
Come on, Michelle.
Come on, Michelle. Michelle, no. No, just leave the egg salad where it is.
Oh, Joe,
I'm going to eat later.
Joe
Michelle,
didn't get it.
I'm here with David Spade on a podcast.
Biden didn't understand it.
Come on.
What do you mean?
What we're going to do? I know how to do this. I know where I am. Yeah. Come on. We know it.
Mike Myers coming on right now.
Mike Myers, my brother from another mother. We have so much in common sensibility-wise. He has 2 older brothers. One's obsessed with Todd Rundgren. I have 3 older brothers. One's obsessed with Todd Rundgren. And he's kind of a... Well, he's had quite he has quite a resume.
Jesus. Well, when I got to SNL, you 2 guys were some heavy hitters that were there, and you were also in Wayne's World together, but we would also all wind up in sketches together, and you had your own stuff, and you had movies. It was very exciting and intimidating to be in there with all you guys, and you 2 went on and did a lot of stuff, and it's great. Mike was a force there, and he was nice to me. And that's saying a lot.
Who wasn't nice to you? You're David Spade. Everyone likes you.
I didn't really get along with Al Franken, but no names.
I love Al.
If you hear this podcast, there's not a chance that Al's name doesn't come up, and I go in the background.
He's one of our classics. What's interesting about Mike and what we've learned from doing this podcast is that everyone has their own lane there. You have your story. My story's yet to be told. I may get my own special episode.
Please, just talk for now.
We had a nice cast going. The show was starting to come back, and then Mike was dropped in. He had his own lane of joining the cast that was already gelling and bringing all this great stuff to it. So I want to hear how he felt about that and his journey through that, and then into sharing this in crazy Wayne's World movie and how much it grew on the show. It's very, very interesting.
I'm going to ask him about Coffee Talk movie, and I'm going to ask about Sprockets movie.
My supernatural friend, Mike Myers. Get Back by the Beatles.
Yeah. I felt like I was watching Da Vinci at work, you know what I mean? Yeah. That moment when Get Back happens moved me to tears. The sweetness that they had with each other, like that hug when there's like I'll go over and I'll talk to George,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
all had that nice sweet hug. Killed me.
And they were just lads, and they, Lennon, as it went on, and there's some of the stuff, what you wrote and I wrote in the 70s, was just very sweet and very present. And I loved how much everyone would lock in and try really hard on everyone's song. I thought it was going to be so much anger, but no, they're like, and Ringo always said that he'd count in and they'd all just drop everything. And also, which you could probably relate to this being, I'm barely middle class growing up, but the setting was just tea and cigarettes and just funny chairs, like nothing. It was so unfancy, especially at Abbey Road. It was just like you'd think it'd be. And then just the work ethic of Paul with trying to, do it again. It's like just.
No, he's definitely just had his hand on the third rail and he was just driven. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it needed to come out. And, George's sadness was tough. Just hey guys, wait up, What are you guys going?
I know, and just that they'd been in back of vans and stuff. And then when Paul was really trying to instruct him, I was getting anxious. Like that's George Harrison, and it's not little George he met at 14. We'll do this and do this and do this. Yeah. And I used to do that as a joke, kind of, because I heard it on an album once. Where Paul would go do to kind of process the melody, and then he's doing it. You go like, it's like he hears the whole. He's like Mozart. I mean, he hears it all. Yeah. And so then he's frustrated, but it was so remarkable. And
I just got to it, guys. I was just watching when in the other room. Swear to God. And
I thought you were a big Monkees fan. I didn't know you were a Beatle guy.
No, I'm watching the Monkees. What are you guys talking about? No, I was watching, and it was just the part where he was sort of helping George, and then it was he's, I guess, stumbling in to get back, but you can kind of go, I know this one, and then he fools around with it, and then he starts going, get back, and you're like, oh, is that what you're talking about, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, whoa!
I was like, oh my god, this is Get Back.
Yeah.
And then
so cool.
I could relate to that constantly. I can relate to. Okay. A lot of creativity is then just going someplace else, like either bullshitting around the table and ordering Chinese food, or they would go into, Carl Perkins songs. They kept going back because you just to refresh their brains and come back around on it, Mm-hmm. So anyway.
No, they just kept getting back to the whole reason why they wanted to do music in the first place. I love that part of it. And I also loved how much Ringo was a Paul McCartney fan. Just the look of adoration when Paul's just, the long and winding road, and he's going, I've got one. And it's like the best song ever.
He had that Savant kind of vibe about him, like pulls it in here, goes there, this just goes there. And it was just so sweet to see.
I think it's how they recognize game. Like even when I got to a good old SNL, like we can't compare to the Beatles, but when I got to a place where I had done stand-up comedy here and there, and the headliner was pretty good and he would kill, but he wasn't that good. And I was trying to sort of figure out what was good and what wasn't and what I jived with. And then I got to this show and you guys were there and everyone was like beyond what I thought they would be. Like, I didn't know what to expect. And I'm like, the writers are so good. And everyone's so ahead of me. I was going, holy shit, I thought it was pretty good, but it's too good here. And I look back and we did have a chunk there where, they usually do have a lot of really, really good people there, but that look right there, I was thinking, shit, I'm over my head. I see you guys.
And then you crushed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It took a while to like take a notepad and go write a sketch, and without tons of help, because everyone's in their own, they got to do their own shit. Mm-hmm. And then people would help, but they can't baby you all day.
Right.
And you just start.
I mean, you had your path. I had mine. And I think Mike's is kind of a singular path because he came in, the cast was going good. Mike Myers is coming in. Who? And then you had to come in. It wasn't like three people came in or someone else. It was and Mike
one.
Was the first new guy after the original cast. It was like 2 seasons in. And so that's kind of unique about your experience. So just explain how that felt. Because what was that like to come in and then you melded and did brilliant, and we were just, we were like the Beatles but at that time it must have been strange.
It was terrifying. I I hadn't seen the show in a long time because I was living in England, and I've said this too many times now, but it's absolutely true. I had a top loading VHS that I had to choose between, the hockey game, which is at 7:30 and it ends at 12:30.
I can relate to that.
Or
I've never heard this, because we all think everyone's heard everything because we go on these different interviews. But I know I'd not heard that one from you.
I didn't. So I got a call. Do I want to be on Saturday Night Live? And I thought it was my brother Paul at first. You know what I mean? Honest to God, because I was in Chicago at Second City, and then I started to watch the show, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are awesome. Like they're, you know what I mean? And I had been in Toronto, and we used to have funny cab guys, the cab dispatchers. So it was an Eastern Avenue taxi in Toronto. And the guy would go, he would do like, oh, hey, I need a cab at Bloor and Dundas. And then a cab, you don't hear the cab driver, and he'd go, give the man a bologna sandwich. Right? We had like this whole
that was
thing.
The code.
That meant you got the cab or something. I don't know, but it was really amusing. And you'd be in the back of the cab and you'd be like, oh, that's a funny dispatcher. And then this one, I was with Dave Foley. And this
Kids
one
in the Hall.
Dave Foley from the Kids in the Hall. And this one cab dispatcher just kept saying, isn't that special? And I said to Dave Foley, I said, that's really funny. That's a great thing to say. Isn't that special? And Foley looked at me and said, that's Dana Carvey's First Lady character. I said, oh my God, that's like a catchphrase. He goes, do you not know? I said, no, I've been living in England for 3.5 years.
That's funny. I didn't.
And I missed everything. And they have no sense of Saturday Night Live in England at all.
Damn.
The only thing,
I don't go.
The only thing that they'd watched later was little clips of Wayne's World after the movie came out. And even then, they were a little like, oh, I like the movie, but I don't know about the sketches.
Let's insert that moment that we shared and then go back around to this because Mike creates Wayne's World, invites me to be on. We're going. It's starting out. It's kind of late in the show. Then Madonna, everything. Then let's make a movie. Okay. And then we have to go to London. I was so naive. That when Paramount was saying, well, would you like to go to London? I kept turning them down. Like, I'm really tired. I think I'll go. I didn't understand what. And they said, well, we'll bring anybody or whatever you want. So we were on the Concorde with Paula and like 6 of our relatives. Cool. But anyway, a moment that I'll never forget is that it had been shown enough in London that there was a following. So Mike and I, who used to joke, let's do a thing called "We're the New Beatles." Remember that one?
Yeah.
We're my cuter. Was that his thing? So we had our little suits on, and then we were in this London cabbie limo type thing, and we pulled up in front of the theater to show London Wayne's World, and there were like 5,000 kids leaning on cyclone fences with posters and stuff. And wasn't that moment we got out of the car like, what? And they're screaming for us. That was fucking nuts.
But how did they get it? Did they get it, Dana, from Mike, our guest? Did they get it from the sketches, or they had caught up with SNL stuff so they knew the movie was coming out?
I think they ran the sketches. On BBC, like, because nothing goes on the hour on BBC. You know what I mean? So it'll be, coming up at 12:38, like it's all weird.
That's all just specific. At 11:19.
They would put in little spacers of Wayne's World,
Mike, one time we went to, the only time I've been to London was, I've only been anywhere for press. And it's just like always quick, but we went for Tommy Boy and Farley and I went over and we, for some reason, thought we were famous over that. Meanwhile, we've only been on the show like 3 years and it's not even really over there, like you said. Right. And then Tommy Boy wasn't even out yet.
So what happened?
We were like doing a premiere and we're like, it's going to be weird being so famous. And then we stayed at the Dorchester and we had hats and glasses on. We go, let's go try to eat. And then no one knew us. And then they're like, hey, who's the fat guy and skinny guy? And then we walked around and then we slowly took the glass and everything off. And then we were trying to get recognized and that wasn't working. And we ate a Hollywood. we went to Piccadilly. So I guess, we were just trying anything to get one person to know us. And it sort of backfired.
Yeah, it is funny. It's all different now. But at the time it was, the ocean was a big ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Without Google, even if you didn't see the show, you didn't see it on Monday on the internet. You had to wait 6 months and see a rerun.
Right.
And maybe you know this, Mike, this is just an insert. It always made me laugh when they'd say, you're going to jump the pond. So the Atlantic Ocean became referred to as a pond. Was that from Londoners or I don't know, anyway?
It feels like an English understatement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Kind of. So, I don't know what everyone knows, but it is interesting. I felt kind of envious in a way of your roots of having two parents from Liverpool, and you're sort of like you're probably had cousins who knew the Beatles or whatever. I mean, that is very interesting. Yes, you did. I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a cousin who knew Aunt Mimi.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, which Aunt
Mimi was in the Beatles.
Aunt Mimi was in the Beatles. She was
she was a roadie. Yeah, Tom Hanks played her in one of the Wayne's World sketches.
She was lugging PV amps.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all good. And I knew all the places. I knew Penny Lane. You know what I mean? I'd been there as a kid. And Strawberry Fields. I kicked a soccer ball around on Strawberry Fields. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a weird thing. And my parents were super proud, and their accent became famous.
Yeah.
So people would knock on the door knowing I wasn't home, and they would say, is Mike in? And my dad would say, no, actually, I think he's kicking about with his other. And people were like, cool, The Beatles were so famous that the accent was famous. And I got some reflected glory of my parents
that's another thing that's unique about you is, okay, you grow up in Canada, and then right out of high school, you go into Second City, right? Mm-hmm. You at some point, obviously, had English roots and had gone over there, but then you go over to England, you're developing your comedy there as part of a comedy team, and you're there for 3 years outside the States and Canada. And then how do you get on SNL from there? Then you get on SNL, you're like 25 or something.
So what happened was I came back for Christmas and my dad was ill. He was starting to get Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And I was in a comedy double act with a guy named Neil Malarkey, who's, really, of course, my dad was like, what's your comedy partner's name? I said, Neil Malarkey. And he said, well, I guess, Bill Shenanigans wasn't available because his name's Malarkey, and
okay.
Malarkey's fantastic. I still work with him today. He's hilarious. And, I didn't want to leave. I loved England.
I don't blame you.
I love being in
London.
this double act. I love London.
Yeah.
And, my dad was starting to get ill. And I did the improv set at Second City Chicago, Second City Toronto, the main stage. And then they said to me, do you want to have a job on the main stage of Second City Toronto? And I was like, I don't really, only because, but then I knew that my dad was ill. And I'm so glad I did, because I did get to see my dad for a little while before he lost his personality, which was sort of like a double death with Alzheimer's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, horrible.
And so I got to see him. He got to see me perform. And then I got hired for Second City Chicago and went down there. And then my dad had a horrible accident in a bath and it was awful. And I went back up and I technically was the alumni at Second City Toronto, and there was an alumni show, and Martin Short saw me there and recommended me to Lorne.
Yes, I know that part of it.
Then I didn't audition. I just got called, and I was just in the cast, and I didn't really actually know I was hired for the first little while exactly. And even Lorne, I was in the hallway and he said, well, what are you doing here? And I was like, I
didn't even know. You're right.
He said, well,
why are you on 9?
Yes. Why are you cross-legged by the elevator bank? And I was like, I don't have an office. He said, get off the floor or something like that. Well, and I was like, didn't I meet you and you hired me?
Well, going full.
Wait, Mike, so
go ahead.
Hang on. Let me ask him.
Yeah.
He didn't. So, Mike, you didn't have the stress of knowing you were having an audition. Really, it just Martin Short saw you and then said he recommended.
100%. If I had auditioned, I wouldn't have got in. That's 100% true.
God,
I'm the shittiest auditioner that's ever.
Oh, I hate it too.
You know what I mean?
So Martin Short must have recommended you really heavily. I mean, you know what I mean?
And Dave Foley.
And Dave Foley
did as well.
Who Lorne respects.
Yeah,
So then
and Pam Thomas is a casting director, Pam Thomas, who was a producer with the Kids in the Hall. She was at this anniversary in Toronto, and she also called Lorne and was like,
so in all due modesty, what were you doing when Marty saw you? Like, were you doing Sprockets? Were you doing Lothar?
I did Wayne's World.
You did Wayne's World?
Yeah, at the top of the second act.
Who played Garth?
Yeah.
There was no Garth.
At
It
the
was
time,
Wayne
okay.
and Nancy.
Thank you for creating a sidekick once again.
Yeah, that's great.
That was very
well, you know
flaky.
the story of I just looked at the cast and I said, who's the best comedian there?
Who's the
I wanted
star?
my sketch. And that's 100% true.
I don't know. I had a baby face, had to keep my chin up, and I guess we'll be doing it on the 50th anniversary. So I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Shit. Isn't it the 30th anniversary this year?
It's the 30th of the movie.
Oh, of you guys.
Yeah, of Wayne's World.
Yeah.
It's the 30th anniversary of Wayne's World, the movie, which is ridiculous. I know.
But I don't even know how to process life anymore. It just spins around so fast. I always say I'm moving at the speed of life. I feel like all of us are way busier than we should or could be. Of course, you have three children, and you just did a Netflix show. If you want to talk about that for a sec, but you've been busy. Let's. Mike did a new show for all you Mike Myers fans. He has a streaming show coming out on Netflix, right? This year? Yeah.
It's in May. It'll come out in May. It's called The Pentaveret. Mm-hmm. And it's about what if 5 people ran the world.
Call mine.
Well, I had heard that. And I got out with it faster.
You got out first.
Oh, it's first early adopter.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, not at all. It's called The Pentaveret. And it's about 5 people. What if 5 people ran the world? And what if they were nice? And it's about conspiracy theories. Right. And I play all 5.
So you play Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos.
Well, you'll have
Elon
to
Musk.
see. I'm keeping tight-lipped about the various characters.
I love the premise, and I love the idea of it. So, and you're doing your Mike Myers thing, which is amazing to watch.
Well, thank you. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I happy with it. Very happy with it.
Is the place.
I think the writer performer is kind of the most potent comedian. Not all comedians write their stuff, but in your case, you were just every bit as much a writer. Tina Fey, the same, and a great performer. Yeah. What I'm kind of interested now that we're to this section is what you brought to SNL that first year was so outside. It had its own frequency, its own sensibility, and I always say it's Canadian, British, and American, because you're always watching America as a kid, right? From Canada. So that when you came in, and I wanted to walk through some of those things you did on that first season, and then finished with this part of it when we were touring, and Mike and I did some dates, and how hard you had landed with the audience, because we were playing 3,000 seaters, and you'd come out and they were going crazy. So anyway, I'll be back in 10 minutes. I just wanted to lay that out there. That was a long way of saying. So you come in, the first thing I saw, I'll start it this way. So Mike comes in, he's very Canadian in the sense that he's shy and sweet, unassuming. And the first thing I saw you do, I think you had a suit on, you had a French accent, and you were peeing yourself with some kind of device.
It was fortuitous. It was as if it was French Saturday Night Live.
Oh, okay.
And because I speak French because I'm from Canada.
Do you really?
Yeah, je peux parler français. J'ai pris français quand j'étais en école. Je suis Canadien.
I've only been able to do fake French. So this is nothing, right? But anyway, so...
So I did it actually in French.
Oh, you did? Oh, you're actually French in a suit, wetting your pants. Is that your first sketch?
Yeah. I was playing a cast member or the French celebrity who was hosting that week.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In France, and it's and then they had a pee rig. On me.
Right.
And
always enjoy wearing a pee rig. I don't know why.
Now this is Mike. This is your first read through, or is this your first show?
First show, I think, and then the first sketch I was in, where I played Nigel the groundskeeper, and it was a lot
of Nigels.
I like someone's name.
Nigel,
the groundskeeper.
I'm no stranger to a Nigel.
It's a good English name, I guess. It's funny.
And
wait, Mike, was that the beginning of like a September season? Like I came at the end of a season, and some people come in the middle. Adam came in the middle.
I came in the middle. It was February of '89. Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, that's sometimes tougher. Everything's rolling.
It was, and everybody's awesome. Like, you know.
Well, we had Phil Hartman and Jan Hooks. I mean, you know.
Oh my God, I had a nervous breakdown that first week. I said straight up on the floor crying, "I'm not going to make it." These people, I didn't know.
And then Lauren said, "What are you doing on the floor, Mike?
Get off the floor,
Mike." So you
need to go to a psych ward, Mike.
So in those 4 months, you landed. I know you did Sprockets.
Yeah.
Which I always love the touch my monkey aspect to it.
Yes.
That was so specifically insane. Demanding touch it. So where did that? So you had that when Martin Short saw you. Did you do Sprockets and Wayne's World, or?
No, I just did Wayne's World, and it was after the intermission, and I came up from the audience, and people actually kind of weren't sure
if it was
what was happening, and then. Then I had a great show, and then we did the improv set, and I did a couple of things, and I just had a show of my life. It was one of those weird things. And then there's a thing called freeze tag at Second City where you take the position of somebody. And I ended up in this long freeze tag with Martin Short.
Oh, okay.
And as it was described to me, is that Martin Short looked at me, and I looked like I was 14, you know what I mean? And was starting to name drop, like as a way of saying, you won't know any of these people. And I matched every name drop for a name drop, you know what I mean?
Okay, got it.
And so he was like, you know, I was with Stevie Spielberg at the blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I said, that's when Liza Minnelli came. We were on a yacht drinking white Puerto Rican rum. And because there's a white Puerto Rican rum commercial that had Liza Minnelli and whatever. And it became this duel, you know what I mean?
I did a bit once where celebrity name dropping, it's always a shorter, like Johnny Carson. I was with John Carson, you know, and Eddie McMahon. You know, it's always kind of changed. We're with Bobby Hope. And watch, you know, that was, but yeah, so you crushed it. Then you come to the show. And then by May, the show's done. So you landed a lot of stuff before we went on our little mini tour, maybe.
But I didn't think so at the time. That's so stupid. Is I literally was like, I blew it. I'm going to get fired. And I really, truly thought I was going to get fired pretty much every week. You know what I mean?
Well, which one landed the best in your mind? I mean, you did Lothar, the Hill People.
Yeah.
Did you?
Lothar, yeah.
I am Lothar of the Hill People. It's like
it's just different crowds like the sort of people that, you know, like musicians liked Dieter, right? And they liked Wayne, but like artsy people were like, oh, that Dieter thing's cool. Wayne's World had more of a broader appeal. But then I remember walking through Central Park, and it was always the people that worked in the park were like, oh my God, it's Lothar, the Hill People.
They remember
Lothar.
You can almost guess who's going to like what. When people come up with Chance Comp, you go, I think you're going to like Ben
So that was like an ancient man in very rudimentary language.
Village man.
No, but this was an ancient man in rudimentary language trying to understand women and society. Was that kind of
it was a sensitive troll or whatever. When I was a kid, I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, but we did it in character, which I look back now and it gives me the corny tingles. But
I know a lot of Dungeons and Dragons fans,
and my character was Lothar. And
when I lie with the woman, she comes. I don't know what you know.
There is much that I could tell you. You know, it's all come. Let us talk of stories of the hunt. That type of.
Wait, but Mike, you just did that half a year, and then you guys went on the road. You were done enough to go on the road.
Yeah, it was. Wow. And I didn't have an act. I wrote it on the plane, and so
Mike was writing, and he had cue cards. I mean, he hadn't done this
on the stage.
And if I could just insert this. So Mike's opening for me. This brilliant thing, he would come out as, was it Wayne? or
Wayne,
underdressed, unbeknownst to the crowd, he was underdressed with Dieter. So you do Wayne, and then you pull a ripcord, and then the theme to Sprockets would come on, and you start dancing as Dieter, and they would go shithouse. I mean, it was such an incredible move.
But I was shocked because I didn't know who was watching the show, and I thought, I just have to just do it. And if it doesn't play, I just stay Wayne the whole night. You know what I mean?
Back then, you don't have Instagram followers, you don't have internet, you don't have Google. So you have to guess, am I famous or does anyone know what the fuck is going on? I'm just hoping they see the show. I'm hoping they're into this. We think it's funny in the building and then we leave. You just don't know.
No idea. And it was interesting. Like when I was very first on the show, I would get like 3 pieces of mail. Right. And
your
often
mom,
it was
your brother. Yeah. No, okay.
Well, often from correctional facilities, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with the real stamp, which I thought was, that's cool. And then I would look over at Dana's and I was like, you got no mail. Dana got no mail. Holy shit. So I guess I'm okay with 3. And I said to, do you remember Julian?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I said to Julian, Julian, I don't understand it. Dana has no mail. He goes, no mail. And then he points over to these $5. These 5. He goes, it doesn't fit in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, it was all I didn't know that. That's nice.
Sheaves and sheaves
for the people at home, right by the page desk. It was Steve Korn when I was there.
Yeah.
And they had all these square boxes and each had her name on it, but they were unfortunately equally the same size.
Yes.
And then you'd see Dana sticking out with all these
stuff
down there.
When Mike and I, when the movie hit, it definitely went surreal for us, right? Because we didn't really know what box office and just awards kept arriving and giant vats of mail. And it was just sort of, I don't know if we really comprehended it.
No, it was too fast.
Too much.
For me, the only one that hit home was having immigrant parents and not having any hockey equipment, except we would go to the skate exchange and you'd get like old timey skates that look like, soon railways will be spanning the nation skates. You know what I mean? And then I'm on Saturday Night Live. We weren't making any money, but all of a sudden a thing arrives, this big giant duffel bag from Team Canada with Team Canada skates with the logo stitched into the skates, into the hockey pads, into the gloves, the logo Team Canada. And I was like,
how cool.
This is like unbelievable. And
that's making it.
I still have the gloves because
you were a big hockey guy back then.
Yeah.
I think you had a lot of coats and stuff.
That's kind of a bond. It's not. I would never do a military analogy, but it's a bonding thing in show business to be on that show with people because it's so gritty. And then to have your first success with them and the first time making a couple extra bucks. I remember you scrounging for quarters, to get a sandwich and stuff, or you got bringing a buck out and,
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I did. I had to borrow money off Lauren. Off the first half season.
Does he have a billfold and kind of go like that? Does he like 5, 10, 15? I want it by Tuesday.
Where was I? Start again.
Did he pay you in Canadian money or what is that?
Yeah, here's a Bloomy.
A Blooney. No, he said, how much do you need? I said, $10,000. Like I didn't really know.
Wow.
And he was like, well, what's your rent? And I was like, what?
What was
because
it?
How much do you? Something like $1,000 a month or something.
Yeah, and you're netting maybe $1,500.
But I had no money. Like I had negative money. You know what I mean? And I just thought
you asked Lauren. I would be so fucking scared to ask Lauren for money. I probably would have.
I talked to. Do you remember Audrey Pert Dickman?
Of course, Audrey. Yeah.
Sure. And she said, well, she was like, do you have any friends that you can borrow from? I said, not really. No. He goes, almost. It was like anything valuable. The gold in your teeth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Anyone else than Lauren?
Yeah. Basically, can you donate blood?
Yes.
Can you donate blood?
Do you have any shoes you could donate?
Yes.
Did you go to Jim Henry?
I had the same thing, but I went straight to Marcy Klein because I found out she was Calvin Klein's daughter. So I said, well, she's got to have some money. So that was my... No, I'm kidding. But hi, Marcy. She's we love you. I was just looking while you're gone. I just remembered how much I love Philip. I thought that was with the kid with the helmet. He was in straps and he's running away. That was really inspired because
Twigs and berries.
it was so funny visually. Like even if you lost the sound, it was so great.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I mean? And also it was just
Philip
like
is one with hypo.
Yeah.
Was it?
yeah,
The hypo. Yeah.
and he wore a helmet and he had this bungee cord and he's trying
A harness. There was a kid in my neighborhood that had a harness.
a harness.
Yeah.
That's the word. He was
And I was like, that's not right. You know what I mean?
I think you had Nicole Kidman in one, or was that signed?
No, that Nicole Kidman was in on Philip. Yeah.
You know, I saw this morning a middle-aged man, and I'm working on it. And it was Jan Hooks and Victoria. It's just such a throwback of like the simple SNL sketches. And you come in, it's so great. And then Farley came in as drinking buddy. I don't think I remember that. And you guys both snapped your head at the same time and drank. And it was fucking really well done.
and I love the theme. Do you remember the theme? Didn't it have a song? He's
middle-aged man.
Like,
go ahead.
I had a whole.
Can you sing it, Mike, or what?
Was it middle-aged man? Something and
Middle-aged man. Middle-aged man.
Something and a gut. Middle-aged man. And the catchphrase are you looking at my gut? I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Which of course is my actual thing I say all the time
now.
Because I have, of course. I have the gut.
I love presentational comedy like that, where you tell the audience the premise completely up front, and then you present it to them. There's no mathematics for their head. They're just like enjoying. I know exactly what this is.
Yes.
Yeah. We're all spreading around. I mean, my waist is like way bigger than it was back then. I used to tease John Lovitz because I looked at the board and they do your waist and your inseam, and I was like, well, I was young then. I was like 31, 33. And everyone else had a bigger waist and a shorter inseam. So you know how you tease John, and he teases you. I go, John, look, I have reverse sizing. He goes, what? What do you mean, reverse? So anyway, John is the greatest. I mean, he's just the silliest.
Hello,
everybody.
What else? I saw a side on YouTube. It said, "Here's a scene of Mike, all things Scottish, from Dress." I'm like, you can watch shit from Dress?
What?
Yeah, I go, and it said on the beginning, Saturday Night Live films a show at 11:30, but they have a dress rehearsal at 8, and it's not supposed to air. But here's one. I go, you can find Dress. This is unreal.
Everyone there
was that the one with Mel Gibson where the cash register malfunctioned?
I think it was Walken. Was Walken everyone?
Yeah.
Wow. What, for a second, just because we're on that topic, hosts that were, I know you've heard these before, but we probably have similar choices. Wayne Gretzky would be a big one for me.
Number one, yeah.
Number one for you. I figured. Yeah. And so just from my point of view for a second, you wrote a Wayne's World sketch, and we went to an ice rink, or did a film. I'm from California, so I never played hockey. Wayne Gretzky is literally super Canadian nice. I mean, just like insanely unassuming. And then I couldn't get my... I was playing the goalie. I didn't know. So he gets on one knee, starts lacing up my shoes and pads. Oh, and then Wayne Gretzky says, here, hold the stick like this. So it was... Thank you again for that moment, Mike, because I was like, what? No, wait a minute.
Like
the greatest
winner.
Yeah, well, it's just... So how was your experience with Wayne? I mean, he was so
Well, I got called into Lauren's office, and... I thought, okay, here it comes. You know what I mean?
On the carpet.
And I thought, all right, I tried. And then he goes, Wayne Gretzky's the host. And I was like, and I was like, is this happening? Like, it's a joke, right? And he said, just maybe a Wayne's World. You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, of course. But I went and all pre-cell phone, of course. I was just pounded calls to Canada.
Oh, my God.
All my friends. Wayne Gretzky's the host. Holy shit. You know what I mean? It was huge.
There was a couple things for that episode that stick out to me. One is I have a terrible fear of flying. So does Wayne. Ironically, even though he must have flown like crazy, he goes, I'll tell you at the end of the week what the secret is to not be afraid. So at the end of the week, the end of the show, I go, Wayne, what's the secret? He goes, helicopters. Just fly in a helicopter and a plane will seem like nothing,
He's right.
And he's kind of right,
He's 100% right. Helicopters are terrifying.
Do you remember the sketch we did where we were playing celebrities idiotically trying to advise them how to play hockey?
I do. And I remember it's like, what if you made the puck out of flubber?
Yeah.
Flubber.
And the funny part was Phil was doing Jack Nicholson, and he always would say Wayne's moniker or nickname before he'd start to talk in rehearsal. He'd go, "Great one." And Wayne would lose it every time, And I was pulling out my silly John Travolta from 1975 going, maybe just everybody should just go right at the net super fast. Just go right, that kind of thing. Yeah. And he loved it. But anyway, he stood out as and he nailed that thing where he's singing like Elvis on the air show.
Waikiki Hockey.
Yeah. Suddenly he was extremely charismatic and in the pocket. It was like, wow, anything can happen on SNL.
Yeah.
So he's that,
Did you ever do Austin? Did you ever do Austin Powers on SNL? You didn't, did you?
No, never did.
That was later.
It's a later creation.
No, that was later. I hosted. I've only hosted once. I hosted in, I would say, 25 years ago.
Was it to promote?
It was for Austin Powers. Yeah.
And how did you find that? Because David's hosted. I've hosted three times, I think.
Yeah.
I find it really difficult.
Do you? It looked so natural and fun. What was your...
Well, when I did one in 95, I actually got, I got into a restaurant sketch with Chris was in it, and Tim Meadows and Sandler that I didn't write. Steve Coren wrote, The Pepper Boy. And that for a restaurant sketch underneath the bleachers kind of set, it killed so hard that at that night at the hotel at 4:30 in the morning, Sandler, he just left a voicemail for me going, "Carvey, Pepper Boy." One of those, right? It killed so hard. But the last...
I think he said Sandler.
To me, Sandler. But the last time I went on, I just was a little too amped up, had been gone too long, and was a little too serious about it, trying to control it. Because they put you in like 13 sketches. As a cast member, you're used to having one or two that you're shepherding, so you can really focus. So that's the part that's hard. But how did you guys find it?
You also want to kill on every sketch, and you start to go, I don't want to kill on every sketch.
So you enjoyed it, Mike?
No, it was hard. It was really hard. But because it was too many sketches, and I also wanted every moment to be perfection. But what was from when you write and produce your stuff, from that standpoint, it, like they said, okay, you're going to play the Prime Minister at the time of England, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I need some tape on it. I don't really know how he talks. And so I said to the person, is it possible to get a tape? And they said, sure, it'll be for 5 minutes. And I'm like, yeah. Because when you do movies, it's much slower.
Yeah, much slower than
and
that.
Literally 5 minutes later, there was a tape. And I was like, this is why movies can be frustrating at times, because honest to God, like everything, you can't believe how fast things happen.
Yeah.
And so when people on movies tell you, oh, it can't happen, you're like, beg to differ.
Actually, it can. Well, that's the love of Saturday Night Live. If you tend to procrastinate, or you just have these hard deadlines throughout the week that keep pushing you forward and keep you really heightened. I didn't realize for my ADD or whatever I've got that really fit my brain nicely, because everything was in front of me, and then there was the dress show, and then boom, it's over. And then in a movie, you might develop it for 2 years. It's like, and then I was on a film once with a guy. We did so many rehearsals and so many other angles. By the time it got to the shot they were going to use, I had said the thing, like I'd say 150, 200 times.
Right.
It didn't even seem like English. It was like, I mean, I think, maybe the way other people do documentary style or something, but that kind of crushed me in movies. I didn't feel.
I would love to shoot. I always want less takes, because I feel like you're fresh, you get it, and if something happens off the top of your head, or you tweak it, but to do it, and then you're finally so burned out at the end, they go, now here's the big close-up, and you go, now the one we're going to use. I go, God damn it.
Yeah. You've used it all on the other side. Yeah.
What is the money shot? I mean, in Wayne's World 1, because it was, I don't know, I think it was like 35 days. So, and so there wasn't a lot of time for a lot of coverage. Like in Wayne's World 1.
It's freedom from choice too. That's the other thing too. You don't want so many choices. And the other thing too, I didn't even know on Wayne's World to ask if there was what the coverage was. You know what I mean?
Me neither.
Of course.
And now, there's been some movies where you can't ask, or I was like Bohemian Rhapsody. I was just like,
great,
whatever.
Yeah.
Right. You're a hired hand kind of, right?
Yeah, exactly. And on Inglourious Bastards, it was just like, whatever you would like, you know what I mean?
Can I say how much I love that scene? And I saw it recently, and that how big he made the room, and the attitude of your character and the accent. It's so fucking great.
I love.
Well, I love Tarantino. I mean, you got to be in a Tarantino movie. And
I can't believe it. Like, I also got to be in a World War II movie, which is also in just the whole experience was shot in Nazi headquarters.
Are you kind of, I'm just going to throw this out, I don't know where it's going. Are you kind of a World War II historian in a way, or you're very much interested in that particular event? No, Mike is fanatic, and it's okay to say that, and I have other friends who do it, but you do paint and make beautiful models. Extraordinary.
Toy soldiers, yeah. Oh, thank you.
And you have tableaus of soldiers, and they're just breathtaking. Dioramas,
thank
okay.
You. Yeah.
Extraordinary, but yeah, I'm a lightweight compared to you, but I'm fascinated by World War II as well.
Both my parents were in World War II. My mom was in the Royal Air Force, and my dad was in the Royal Engineers and fought, in the second wave of Market Garden, where they were building bridges and clearing landmines and making anti-aircraft gun installments. Wow. And my dad's shot at the Germans. He doesn't know whether he killed anybody.
Amazing.
He took fire. He's been shelled. My dad was shelled during World War II and was in a slit trench underneath the truck. And he said the thing about the British Army is that in combat, British soldiers laugh all the time. They just
makes sense.
Constantly laughing. Like, it's
really,
just
even when they're frightened and running with the rifle, they're laughing.
They laugh
out
of fear. Yeah. And I was like, is that just legend and lore? But then, of course, I've seen a lot of documentaries about the British Army and stuff it's just one of those stress responses.
The greatest. So,
it shaped them. It shaped my parents. It shaped my parents in a huge way.
How do you feel it did? How do you feel it did in specific?
Well, they would talk about things like fascism, and that was a real thing. Like, my dad and my mom hated any kind of fascism and anything like that, and would talk about it at the dinner table. And I realized that my friends who didn't have World War II parents were less concerned about the possibility of fascism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
interesting.
It's, they were just, the Nazis are bad guys. I mean, that's it's one of those wars that are just unequivocal. They must be stopped. You know what I mean?
Was it interesting, Mike? We might have talked. Oh, sorry, but in Dunkirk, the movie, they didn't say Nazis. They said the enemy.
Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they never say Nazi. They say enemy planes, enemy. David, sorry to interrupt.
I was saying that question was stupid, but this one's even dumber. So you, by the way, I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, and I didn't know it was you, and I saw it again, and then I figured out. I was like, "What? Mike's in that?" And then my friend goes, "You said you know him." I go, "I do. Let me just look closer."
You said you know him. Then, come on, man.
Great. Your friend's awfully angry. I just want to say where that friend is. You said you knew him.
Yeah. I go, "Well,
I hate you."
Prove I know him when he's in the movie. What do I do? And then, also, I thought it's a real. Testament to success in SNL when I see, or just your life when you have Halloween costumes.
Right.
And I see you guys, there's always been a couple, and with Mike, it's Austin Powers, and there's obviously Wayne's World with other that's always a great one, like couples do it or two girls.
Usually two girls. Two girls when I run into them, both with wigs, two girls, one's Wayne, one's Garth.
That's a huge one still. That just shows how long, and obviously Shrek, and there's I've seen some coffee talks. I think back
Linda
then,
Richmond,
middle-aged man. Yeah, it's just fun to have that's out there and it just stays alive. That's the funnest success. Is going, oh look, people like it enough.
That's the biggest flattery. I love it when someone gives me a specific compliment. If you had a compliment just someone on the street or on a subway or something that says something to you that's obscure in a way, and they loved it?
Well, I went as a British soldier for Halloween 2 years ago. Surprise, surprise. I may have a couple of British Army uniforms, and
okay.
and this 20-something young person comes up to me and goes, A, I love your work. Thank you very much. B, thank you for having the Halloween costume that I thought you might have.
Cool.
Which is like, oh, well, somehow that was a great compliment. The funniest one I've ever had was being in a cab in New York, and sometimes the bike guys grab the handle
to get a little
of the cab
ride,
push.
Yeah.
Some guy grabbed the handle, and then with the other hand just pointed at me and went, "Famous," and then took off. That was it.
Good.
Famous.
All right, let's talk about that for a second because, okay, Mike wrote this really cool book about Canada because Mike loves Canada probably as much as anybody who's then ever become an American citizen. I don't know. You're
Canadian hero.
Well, I have to say this because I know how big it is, this award. Mike is the Office of the Order of Canada, and he's on a stamp.
Yeah.
Then he writes this book, and I just was looking at it today because you sent it to me. Thank you very much. And there's this quote in here that I thought was so interesting about fame. Fame is not creativity. It's the industrial disease of creativity. Pretty potent thing to say.
Right.
But I mean, you've never pursued it in a classic sense. And some people do, don't judge it. But we live in an era now where fame is talent. The pursuit of talent is fame. The monetization of fame outstrips talent often, just fame for fame's sake. So anyway, what would she say? Am I cutting out?
No, I got you. I got your back now. Sorry.
As Linda Richmond would say, talk amongst yourselves. Was that her friend?
Yes. Like when you had Madonna out there, I was like, oh my God. You had her for Wayne's World too. You had Anne, wasn't she in Coffee Talk at home base?
She was, yes, with Barbara Streisand and Roseanne Barr.
That's a big one.
That was a big one. Streisand is Streisand. I mean, there is.
I was opening Amstel lights for Lauren at that time.
And the tall poor
monitors under the bleachers.
David is so
nice. That's perfect.
I know.
In a big giant glass.
The giant glass. He'd start the pour low, and then he'd bring his hand up like 2 feet above the pour of the glass.
Under the bleachers, monitors. It was the best. They go, Lauren wants to see it. I'm like, oh no. You go in there, and he'd go, maybe this one, do it, fix it a little bit. It felt like it faded out at the end, and Liz or Aaron would look at me and go, you heard him. And I go, yeah, I got it.
I've said this before, but I guess once in a while I was out there really mugging it up, like not going to do it, all that. Lauren, with I think affection, would say, looking at the monitor under the bleachers, go, he's a fucking show pony. And I didn't take offense to it. I go, at times I am just a bald-faced ham, just trying to shove it down the, Which
you remember when Lauren is always so funny, but he goes, when Sinead O'Connor ripped up that picture, and then I was out there, so I picked up a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenny and Mungus, they need that back. But I walked over, and Lauren was drinking an Amstel Light, and it went dead silent. And I went to a commercial, and he goes, Irish.
So you're already an alcoholic.
Yeah, and that was it. And I was like, oh, I didn't even really get it. I go, yeah.
Well, I remember the Sinead episode, and when I saw that, I don't know. I guess she felt that maybe we shunned her, but I was just shy and nervous. I wasn't upset about it. I know a lot of Catholics. I'm very fond of them, but there were issues with that church for a while, and so
she might have been had a little bit of a point at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like I can't have a conversation with that person. I mean, and I would have given her a hug if I thought back in time that she was feeling that ostracized and wounded by making a political statement on Saturday Night Live. So anyway, this will be the thing that'll trend now.
I said, whose side should I keep? That would keep my job. But But Mike, I did walk out there and I had a light show, shocker. And so she did it. She went to commercial.
What's your net worth? Come on.
And I went out and I picked up a little piece and I put it in my pocket. And I just go, yeah. By the way, I'm not even that religious. I don't really know how heavy that was, what was going on. I'm Arizona dumb. I just go, all right. I just had a piece. I go, that was weird. And then on Sunday night on Hard Copy or something, there was obviously a huge fucking story. And then they go, tonight we have Sinead O'Connor and the picture that around the world. And they show the ripped picture and one piece is missing on my desk. I go, wait, that's the real picture. Because I have the And then Monday, and I started bragging about it, of course. And then Monday, Kenny Amon called me in, David.
Producer.
And Kenny Amon was great. And I went in, he goes, there's a rumor you have and he goes, we'll need that back. And I go, what? Did I have what? Of course, stalling for about 5 seconds. And then I gave it to him so I wouldn't get fired. And then he said, what happened was they found out some crew guy or something sold it for $10,000 to that.
Oh, shit.
And I was in on it. I go, I'm not the mastermind.
On Monday before the host meeting, I went into Lauren's office for a second. And as I was walking out, I heard him say, he said, Marcy, get me the Pope. And so I guess he called. I'm sorry. Anyway, inside joke. Lauren can call anyone in the world and they'll pick up.
He's circling the building.
It's Lorna Michaels that we're going to pick up.
Well, I have a question for Mike. Did fucking George Harrison write your letter?
He did, yes.
Damn it.
Yes. An incredible full circle thing in life. Yeah.
Wow.
It was during Austin Powers 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the day that it was Tom Cruise, Danny DeVito, Gwyneth Paltrow, Steven Spielberg, all in that fake opening of Austin Powers called Austin Pussy. And I got a call. I got a call in the morning from Gavin DeBecker, who's a security specialist. And he said, dead, but letter. And I thought, oh, shit, like somebody with some weird threatening letter. But when I got up that morning, it was George Harrison had died. And I always felt very close to George. I kind of have the George Harrison face. There's like 5 faces in Liverpool, and I have the George Harrison, as did my dad. My dad and George Harrison look very much alike. And I cried like a baby. And I was like, oh, man, this is this big day. And it was raining. And I thought, oh, shit. We have to cancel this big day. This is a horrible day. Then somebody wants to kill me, I'm thinking. And then the day turned out to be fantastic and one of the most amazing days ever. And I got a knock on the door, and it's the last letter that George Harrison's ever written anybody. And he's an Austin Powers fan. He goes, I was looking all over Europe for a mini-you doll. And anyways, love the films.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. I know. And I was like, oh shit. It literally got hot in my hands. It's up on my wall. It's one of my treasured.
That is just one of those.
I can't believe it.
I mean, a lot of these full circle moments that happen, that's probably one of the parents from Liverpool, you going into show business, you doing this, you're riding this incredible wave of these franchises, Wayne's World, Austin Powers, and then you get a letter from George Harrison. I mean, it's I can't. There's no way for me to process it. I don't know how you would process it.
It's just beyond and
beyond, yeah. And so lovely.
Yeah. An exciting time was when we were in London for Wayne's World 2, sitting next to Paul McCartney. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
For the premiere, and he was talking a lot, during the show, and I was nervous. And he was like, well, that's a funny bit. Did you write that? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and you're trying to focus. Yeah.
Just look. Yeah. Okay, look up there.
I love him.
Did it take you a long time to write that? I'm like, yeah, it took forever. Just look. And I was like, my joke,
sir.
My joke was that I would wish I was next to the quiet one instead of the cute one.
Yeah,
but it was pretty spectacular.
Well, you guys were there. I had left the show the week before Paul came to host, which I regret. I've gotten to interact with Paul in different ways at different times, but that must have been cool. Just having Paul around, doing sketches and.
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
That day, were you there when he had the mini concert, or had you left at that point, Dana?
I think I'd left. So did he do it like Eric Clapton?
Yeah, at the end of the show.
Eric Clapton did that too, right? The show ended and Eric Clapton did like a half hour of jamming. I says Paul did the same thing.
Well, yeah. So my brother Paul had come down from Toronto for this Paul McCartney show. And it was very amazing. So Linda was there. Linda McCartney was there. And Paul had met Paul McCartney at the Wayne's World 2 opening. And Linda, my dad had just passed away, and Linda said to my brother Paul, "Hey, Paul, sorry to hear about your dad," which was just amazing. How did you remember that? How did you know what I mean?
Very, very Linda.
Just so lovely.
Yeah.
And Paul was very moved by that. And then we went and he played Let It Be.
Yeah.
And,
which is kind of thematic.
And people there's not a dry eye in the house. And I was on the Toonses card. Remember Toonses, the cat?
Oh, yeah. Jack Handy.
So
Toonses
me
the
and Paul were arm in arm on the Toonses car. And next to us was Bill Murray and his brother.
Wow.
Good Lord.
And it was just you can't believe it. Like, he's right there. You know what I mean? It's sort of like Eiffel Tower, Empire State Building, Paul McCartney right there. You just can't fucking believe it.
No one gets used to seeing Paul McCartney. Every day was like, no one can fucking deal with it. By the way, Mike, when that happened, Franken said, he goes, I remember, we were talking about that like a week later. He goes, I remember he was telling someone that Paul McCartney played Let It Be, and I started crying, and then I walked over and stole some jeans from the Gap Girls set.
Did he say that seriously?
He's like the penguin. He's like the penguin all of a sudden.
Yeah, it was all serious. Then he goes, and I went and stole some jeans from the Gap Girls set because there was so many. It was like a real set with a security guard because there was so many.
That's kind of brilliant in a way of like looking at sets to kind of harvest stuff and shoplift sets.
Yeah, and it's so funny that on the heels of that Let It Be where everyone was crying.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, the next morning we went to the John Lennon Circle, me and Paul.
Just in Central Park with all the people.
Just as Bill Murray and his brother also came to the Imagine Circle at Strawberry Fields. And it was kind of, I don't know, this was kind of a huge moment.
It's just everyone a Beatles fan. I mean, is Bill and his brother like at the level of you and your brother Paul? Because is there levels to it, or it's just like a fanaticism that we can't let go of because it just keeps giving all the time. You go back and revisit the music and you go, seriously? No.
But if you've had a little bit of fame, you can't imagine their level of fame. Do you know what I mean? Their fame is famous. Do you know what I mean? They're famously famous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is it's just the type of show business that you wanted to be in. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's what I always wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. I didn't know Saturday Night Live would be there for me. I always wanted to be on Letterman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I always wanted to be on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
I never got to be on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, but I always wanted to be. And it's just sort of just in general, the Beatles, like in specific the Beatles, but in general, American show business. I don't think if you didn't grow up in this country, how magical American show business is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's the best show business in the world.
Bigger in other countries too, because it's America. I think that they go.
Yeah, and that's magical. What the Beatles always said. We got to get a number one in America before we go there. Yeah, that was their enchanted land.
But just growing up in Canada, my dad worshipped the United States because of show business. You know what I mean? He wasn't like, oh, them Americans. He was like, they do it right and they're fantastic. And even my mom, when Wayne's World came out and it was a big hit, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My mom said, I said, did you see Wayne's World? She said, oh, yes, it's very good. I said, yeah. She goes, oh, that Dana Carvey's very good, isn't he?
She would use me to inspire you or something. What is she talking about?
What do you mean? She goes, it's just the Americans. They just have it, don't they?
He does.
The Americans. They're slick. They just have it, don't they? And slick wasn't a bad thing. Slick was like,
yeah, slick's.
I never really identified as I'm an American comedian, you know.
But you were to me.
I was. But I just am.
That's funny, Dana. Yeah. That's so funny because you are to me.
Yeah, I totally understand. I grew up there. I am an American comedian. With an American land, whatever that song was.
So you two guys together from the outside, like someone like me and the other dudes and Sam and I, we were always like looking at you guys like, holy shit, these guys are fucking crushing everything they go into. Every read through, we got to see it. We're like, it's just like a class. You watch how these sketches are put together and you watch that everyone's really trying, you know what I mean? Yeah. You go, oh, no one's walking through it here like, hey, we're famous. It's like every week everyone's grinding and stressed and going, fuck, we got another week. Who cares about last week? It's over. What are we doing this week? And who's the new host? And oh, it's Glenn Close. What are we doing? You know?
But you know, we came from stand-up, David and I. So then I get on Saturday Night Live and now I'm doing sketch comedy. And so that became such a joy as it went on. You know, being out there with Phil and Carson or Mike with Wayne's World or Kevin with Hans and Franz, of like bouncing off someone, wanting them to be great. You wanting to be, you know, they're pinging you, you're going to ping them back. It's a very exhilarating feeling to be part of an ensemble that's scoring.
And then it's the Turners and it's
Bonnie and Terry Turner.
It's Conan and it's Jack Handy and it's Christine Zander.
Robert
it's all
Smigel.
These people, Robert Smigel.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Jim
like
Downey.
writing these fantastic sketches, and you're just like, you know, I couldn't believe the level of the comedy writing. I mean, I watched it for half a season, you know, and studied it. Like I made my own running orders when I was at home, you know. But when you're there, and it's so intimidating, you know what I mean?
Well, you're trying to write against the writers, which are unreal. You don't know when you get there because they're not like famous, but you go, holy fuck, these guys know what they're doing. And then you go, oh, and I have to write against cast members that are great.
Right.
And they're writing stuff. So you go, where do I fit in here?
But it was fun to score with someone else's piece. So remember we did Jagger and Keith Richards? And I think they wrote that, Downey or someone wrote it. I didn't write on it. And then they were so pleased that it worked. And, you know, it's fun. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, not at all. I just remember Downey, too, was great because he would just go, I think there's a joke that's kind of like a joke, and then a joke would emerge. And you're like, I didn't know you could dial up jokes. Like, to me, jokes were like, they came to you like lightning and they're put in your hand and they were hot. You know what I mean? You had to put them down.
That's a good observation about him.
Up jokes.
Yeah, he would say, there's something very funny about, and then he would say it, right?
Yeah.
And then the joke would emerge. And that I have had to do that now. Like I've had to do that in my having left Saturday Night Live. We're just having to. Sometimes you just need to dial up a joke, and I didn't know it was actually possible until I saw Jim Downey. I thought it was something that they did on the Dick Van Dyke Show, but that wasn't real.
Right,
you know what I mean?
With the staff and the whole
where they're trying to jam jokes. I didn't think actually anybody did jam jokes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting.
In that way of like it's kind of like we need a short joke, and it should be something that's a comment. And I'm like, you can't dial up jokes that way.
That's the math of it that's challenging and fascinating. Does it fit here? Will it lead us anywhere else? And you know. But
they were good at like the breakdown of the sketch instead of just like we were just kind of comedy guys. You know what I'm saying? Probably and Dana, but you too, maybe, where you go, this is funny, and then they're like breaking on the sketch, and that's how they find it. They go, it needs this, and everything points to a certain joke that it's going to be, and then they go, they're cracking a code that you figure out. It takes a long time.
It takes a long time, and I was very inspired and intimidated at the same time. One of the best joke clinicians was Conan O'Brien.
Sure,
definitely. And I once wrote a sketch. And he said, is this your sketch? I said, yeah. He said, do you mind if I rewrite it? And I was like, no, not at all. Because he was so nice to me, Conan, all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he just sort of went, and he handed it to me. And it was 1,000 times better.
That's a great feeling.
Believe it.
Yeah.
I said, now it all one joke flows to the next joke. You know what I mean?
Well,
and I was like, I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Just handed it back to me.
Yeah, I mean, Conan is brilliant. Yeah, and I do think that you got to the whatever level, 5-star level of as a writer when you look at Wayne's World and Austin Powers. I mean, that just flowing and really just this is funny and this is funny and here's a storyline. All of a sudden, something's kind of sweet and human, and then back into it. I mean, just densely, beautifully written, like irresistibly.
Thanks.
Like kind of an irresistible stew, I mean, I don't think movies like Austin Powers make that much money, anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it made like blockbuster box office, and yet it's so weird and quirky, and so anyway.
I think that again, I learned so much from everybody at Saturday Night Live, and you had to learn or you were out. You know what I mean? That was one thing too. And I think that one of the things I'm very grateful for having worked in England is that and I've said this to you, Dana, a few times, but the subject matters that you can do comedy about in England are very, very wide. You know what I mean?
Yes, which
There's
a lot
of different subjects.
That. Yeah.
And, I had such a weird comedy circuit when I lived in London that just went. And also I think too that Jack Handy was a giant influence too.
Yeah.
Giant.
His was eloquent. Right.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like Happy Fun Ball is just.
Happy Fun Ball. Wow. I mean,
do you remember the round of applause after Happy Fun Ball, which was just like
that when it's getting dropped on our troops in Iraq?
Yes, it has come from space. Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball.
Yeah, do not taunt Happy Fun Ball. It's fun. The corniest commercial, and then all these.
Yeah, no, he's
so
brilliant.
great.
We talk about him a lot on this show. Yeah.
Do you, Jack Handy? Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, the sketch I was in with Christopher Walken where we're coming down in the spaceship. We're aliens, I guess, and then our landing gear would hurt a farmer, and we come out. We come in
Let's
peace.
get out of here.
Let's get out of here, and over again, and stuff like that. And there was one I talked about last week. Maybe you'll remember it, where people were like at a kind of a alien court, and the aliens are way high up, and all the aliens want to talk about is box office receipts for movies. Like, didn't they? Because it was just about that obsession with what a movie makes and all that.
Oh, that's so hilarious.
And then me and Neelan about to launch a rocket with binoculars, but then Lassie is underneath the rocket. Oh, okay, let's stop. And then Hitler goes. Then the Mona Lisa's under there. It just keeps, So Jack Handy, look him up. Anybody wants to write comedy. So
should we let Michael go?
I think
Dana?
Mike has a career and a family. Last I checked, so
I have a family, that's for sure.
He definitely has a wonderful family. Mike Myers, what can we say? A Canadian delight.
Thank you.
A Hall of Fame of everything. What else? And still out there doing everything, doing the shows. And
Where do you live now? And then I'll let you go.
I live in New York City.
Okay, what big streets? No, you live on Bay and Bloor, do you in Canada? I know.
I don't know, but I did live very close to Bay and Bloor.
We stayed there.
What they call Blow-Yo. That's the.
Is that what they call it now?
Yeah.
When I was there, we called it Bay and Bloor.
Oh, I see.
When I was there years and years ago, we did 3 movies up there. A lot of fun. Love Canada. Well, thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
And great talking to you, buddy.
All
right, guys.
We'll be texting soon.
All right. Yes, please. All right, guys.
Enjoyed it.
All right, bye, guys.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, what's up, flies? What's up, fleas? What's up, people that listen? We want to hear from you and your dumb questions.
Questions, ask us anything. Anything you want.
You can email us at flyonthewall@cadence13.com. Andrew Laposha. Hello, guys. Thanks for what you're doing. I like when they say that first. You're welcome. It's so awesome. My question, who did you most want to host SNL that never got to? I'd say Tina Fey. That's my answer for everything. No, who are you thinking? Because I'm
just thinking of who I'd want to hang out with.
Yeah.
So and they were musical guests, but I would like to have been on the show when Neil Young was the host.
Oh yeah, because you love
I would have had
Young.
Neil Young on Church Chat. Well, our voice is sort of like a lady's voice, isn't it? Old man. You know what's really ironic is Church Lady. This is what Judd Apatow would help me with, make an album where Church Lady sings Neil Young. Because I can't sing, but as Church Lady singing, it sounds exactly like Neil Young. Okay, I'll show you. First, Neil Young. Old man, look at my life. I'm a lot like you were. Church lady. Oh man, look at my life. I'm a lot like you were. Well, isn't that special? No, it's true. I can sing as Neil Young, but I have to sing as church lady singing as Neil Young.
And that's my answer too. All right. Thank you, Andrew.
As you know, if all things go according to plan, you're going to be my first guest on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. And by the time people hear this, it'll already have happened. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time for my awkwardness, deer in the headlight look, my jokes
messy
that didn't
hair,
work.
ill-fitting suit.
Do you get, how do you stop the hair people there? I mean, because you don't want to get TV hair. You know, if you go to a studio and your hair looks like kind of bed hair, cool, all the girls like it. By the time you get on the set, you have TV hair. Like you've never combed it like that. I was doing a thing recently and the hair person snuck up behind me with goop in her hands behind me and just went all over my head and pulling my hair back with all this goop. And I said, I spent 7 hours on that mopped up.
To make it look tousled and thrown together like Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we could go to Argentina and surf, I love Owen.
That is a good Owen. Owen's
He's
great. Dude. That guy lives a fun life. We're here to talk about John Mulaney, though. But I will tell you, Dana, that on Kimmel, we're going to have some laughs. I might even say this. Listen to this. This is a real story. I had a mosquito in my house last night.
A mosquito? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mosquito. Okay. And so Dana's baffled. I said mosquito. And
okay, go ahead.
I don't know how to talk. So this guy comes in, and I think he brought some reinforcements because it was 2 nights in a row. And they get in your ear. It's like, once I hear that, I have to get up. I go, okay, break's over. Middle of the night, got to kill it. But now there's no way to win because I got the Raid and everything. So now what I do is I spray my whole body with Raid, and then I just lay down. I set a trap. So now they come. They think they're going to have the
toxic.
So smart. Yeah, they come and they go, and then they go, ooh, I got a bad batch. Did you guys have blood earlier? And then they like rubbing their eyes going, why do I feel so shitty? And then they croak. And right before they die, they look at me and they go, it was a trick. And then I have to go to the hospital too. But I love
bits where insects can talk.
Yeah, that's great. Everybody talks in my act. So I got that going for me. Dana, John Mulaney.
Dana, okay, I want to dovetail from my little thing I just saw into John Mulaney because you and he are seeking out stories, and you're really aware as you navigate the universe if like that could be an interesting story extrapolated. So I pulled up to this place. I saw a woman with her dog. The dog went poopy on the lawn. Mm-hmm. The woman picked it up with a glove and then sniffed it. Just what I saw. Now, Mulaney, to his ability, that could be 20 minutes. He might do 20,
I was walking down the street today.
What else is she sniffing? I mean, Mulaney writes this shit out of his bits in the best way. His stories are great.
I think it's that old school Seinfeld thing where Seinfeld was saying the other day, like there's comics that do phrasing and words and just the way things are written and the structure, which I love. I don't know if I'm that good at it, but I love it. And then there's bigger comics that are playing broader, like you see, even a Carrot Top, I still laugh at. There's prop comics I still laugh at. Guitar acts I laugh at.
Yeah.
So it's just, he was saying he's almost jealous that they do something so different. I feel the same way. I don't look down on them. I think they're a crack up. But Mulaney is such a pure, great written comic and these stories. I wish my next special was just 5 stories. I love to just find some tent poles in a story that's 5 minutes long and have blah, blah, blah. Keep them entertained. It's not really thought out. You're actually just telling stories in real life. And then one day you go, oh, that actually might be something for my set,
Well, it gets it away from doing a bit because sometimes you just have to make fun of the fact that you're doing this prepared little bit. But if you are telling a story that starts from a truthful place, Mulaney is very good. He's got the Seinfeld writing, really deeply, a lot of punchlines, little punchlines, big punchlines, throwaway punchlines. And then he also does, he moves a lot, and he does little act outs and little impressions. So he's a dynamite performer. He's like you, David.
And he's selling out some big rooms on the road. And I told him I was checking out his list going, God damn, dude, I know these places. They're huge. So it's a treat to talk to him. We're lucky to have him. We're going to have some
humble,
big
nice
laughs with
guy,
him. Yeah.
And really, really smart. And we just talk all about his life and everything that's going on. And it's very enjoyable, hopefully, for our fleas, our flies, our flyers.
Okay, fleas, here you go. John Mulaney.
Oh, no, I understand. I love by the way, I love the show. I've listened to every episode. Even Judd's.
Even Judd's. Interesting. He wasn't even on SNL, but it was fine.
But he's discovered so many movie stars from it.
Yes. He is somebody who just gets stuff done. Like if you call him with an idea, he does have that engine. Let's just make it. Let's do it. I don't know if you don't need to get anything from him, right?
So we reached a point in our friendship where it was kind of clear I wasn't going to try to write a movie for him. There's like everyone my generation was in a stable where he just kind of, I think without even holding deals or money, he just had so many people like myself, Key and Peele, the Lucas brothers, all Bill Hader, Simon Rich, all these people had a movie deal with Judd. And I would kind of watch it and be like, wow, everyone from SNL on their summer break writes 100 drafts of a Judd movie. And he doesn't make them. He makes one movie every 2-3 years. So if he's making Trainwreck, that means it's like all these people I know who's like, thing is passed over. So as soon as he and I had some weird unsaid understanding that I was never going to write a movie for him, we became a lot closer because then we could just talk about stand-up. We're talking about Judd Apatow, David.
Yeah, he does seem to, whenever there's a shiny object that emerges on the scene, it seems like Judd is there. He's recognizing it early.
It's funny to me when he people go like, Judd has an eye for talent. It's like, well, they're on SNL,
It's not rocket science.
It is kind of not rocket science.
I had a spectacular accidental set at the Improv once, and Carol Leifer, I think, contacted Judd and saying it's different now. So then he started emailing me and stuff. I go, I'm almost dead. I mean, there's nothing left here. But anyway, he's affable. We did the podcast in person with him. It was kind of nice, actually.
That is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I saw John. Just so the people know, I don't know John very well at all, but I obviously think you're funny. And so here's my microphone.
said so businesslike.
I would say that your stand-up is really starting to come into its own. You've got that thing figured out
in the last week.
Yeah. Over the weekend.
I was eating it. I was bombing so hard till last week. Finally.
Can I just say the first time I met John, because it really made me laugh. So I'm hosting the show. I go in a little room. It's Bill Hader and John. And I didn't know them. They didn't know me. Like, what do you want to do? And I didn't know. I thought people might say a Wayne's World thing or something like that. And you guys both said, our favorite thing you've ever done is Mickey Rooney.
Yeah. And that was, your Mickey Rooney was, we were talking about how we were going to ask you to do it before you came in the room. It was sort of like, okay, the week is here. He's here.
I immediately...
And by the way, Dana, you then told us, we knew the impression from Theater Stories, the sketch you did on the show. I had never heard the unused anecdotes of Mickey Rooney until that day. And I think it's the hardest I've ever laughed. Was the Juan Corona story, which you now have to tell.
Oh, yeah. Mickey Rooney, he was a down point in his career, and he had a .38 revolver with him at all times. We were, and he would wave it around.
He was at one of the rare down points.
Yeah, and he had the gun and walk around. And New York had a crime spree going then in like 1981. He said he would walk around with his hand on the .38, and they're not gonna get me, But he told a story where his idea
at this time, Dana, you were doing a multicam with him.
Yes,
in 30 Rockefeller
with Meg Ryan, Nathan Lane, Scatman Carruthers, where Letterman and then Conan did their thing. So. But he did at one point said he wanted to go meet Juan Corona, the serial killer or whatever, murderer. Yeah. And he says, I was going to walk in there and say, do you know my name? And he'd say, I'm Mickey Rooney. And then I was going to plug him.
Plug somebody?
If I do Mickey Rooney stories, every time I start to talk about him with people, there's new tributaries and things that I forgot to mention. But maybe that Mickey stories, do that as a sub podcast, like a 20-minute a week.
I think about the Mickey story a lot because I like that he thought he could walk into a maximum security prison. Mm-hmm. Like what he had worked out in his mind was what he was going to say.
Yeah.
Not any of the logistics of walking in. I believe Juan Corona was probably, it was a commuted death row sentence, but he would have not been just in an open prison sitch where Mickey Rooney could walk in, land a great in quotes line, and then shoot him.
I never went that far of the logistics of his mindset. Like, how would he get in there?
But he worked out. He goes, listen, I don't know how to get a gun into a jail. I don't know what will happen the moment after I fire it, but I know what I'm going to say, which is, do you know who I am?
John, I've been in a lot of gunfights out in the street, and you think you'll have a lot of time to do one-liners, but it just moves too quickly.
That's true. A lot of people only plan the logistics, and then they don't. When they land on their mark, they don't have a great line.
That's right. Or you miss it, and you go, the one chance I had, and I kind of fluffered my line.
What I would have liked is if Mickey Rooney entered the prison, looked at Juan Corona and said, do you know who I am? And if Juan Corona said, you're Mickey Rooney, then Mickey Rooney wouldn't be able to go, Mickey Rooney. And then that could have saved Juan's life.
Because he had to explain what he was in. Oh, yeah. He goes, oh, you are Mickey Rooney. No. Or if he said, you're Don Knotts. And then he goes, wait,
Don Knotts. I was the number one star.
Yeah.
John is wearing a hoodie, Dana, and I feel like most people don't see you out and about. So is it sort of hoodie, suit, hoodie? What is it? Is there any in between?
Since having a baby, it is.
Congratulations.
The same pair, thank you. The same pair of elastic drawstring khakis and a free t-shirt. That is what I wear.
From merch or something?
Yeah, like a Jimmy Kimmel t-shirt. I have one from the Robin Hood Foundation from a charity thing I did. I have one for every venue. I ask for a free t-shirt. I have a Houston Astros one, a team and a city I have no affiliation with. I wear that very often.
But John, doesn't that invite conversation? Like, I just wear black t-shirts. If I wear anything with something on it, it invites conversation, and I'm an introvert at like an airport or something.
Also known as an asshole.
I remember. That's true, especially in a black t-shirt.
Yeah.
You can't be introverted and wear a black t-shirt. It's very standoffish.
Yes.
They say, hey, how about those Astros? And John's in the airport going, oh, fuck.
Then John later that night.
They've got a full team this year. And I think,
it looks like they got a roster.
But maybe John's the kind of
full roster this year.
You're the type of comedian that if someone said, how about those Astros at the airport? It seems to me that you might have 10 minutes on it within a day or two. The way you write things out. from a
No,
core
I know.
idea.
I'm a bit of a story seeker, so
David is too.
Yeah, I think I'd be delighted if that.
Me
happened.
too. You know what I saw on your when I was looking up stuff about you? Oh, I have a couple questions. One, when you started, I mean, this is SNL stuff. We can go back.
It's like I do with comedy notes. It's
Oh,
just
no.
Yeah, you're fucked. You're gonna get it from all sides.
no. We just go wherever. We're already halfway through.
When I started, Lauren, I saw a couple things you did talking about SNL, and we're just gonna really regurgitate them for a slightly bigger audience. We don't know.
And I hope we'll have a chance to go through what the week is like.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about.
No one's ever
I
brought
feel like
that
that's
up
never
yet.
been covered in any media yet.
And what your relationship is with Lorne Michaels. We're going to break the seal on that.
Dude, the coat of Omerta that surrounds that office.
I like that. The code of Omerta.
When you started, did you do? Here's my question, because I was assigned promos. Did you do promos? Right.
So all writers wrote a promo. You're talking about the Thursday standing on the stage promo?
Yep.
All writers had to submit promos. I wasn't uniquely bad at it, but that's not a skill I have.
That's a very special skill.
I always wanted promos to be really minimal and weird, and I would try to engineer that to happen. And of course, I was wrong. I don't have a knack for that. I was very jealous to hear that you were on the floor every week when you were a writer doing promos.
Did you hear that? Oh, that is true. Yeah.
Where you said that on this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. What happened was I was an okay writer and I was new, and it was sort of jury duty. Like Downey would be like, "Who can we lose for the couple hours during the rewrites?" And none of the writers wanted to do it because your nose is in the rewrites. And so he goes, "Send Spade down," and Lauren and I got along, but there's not much getting along there. It's just promos, but you do get to see the host and the music, which that's fun. But the pressure,
that Thursday afternoon mess of like, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers doing sound check and then trying to corral a host and a cast member for promos was a lot of fun.
Oh, that is true. They like to have a cast member in, and you could write them in. It was kind of a little power trip, but you have to say, for people listening, there's like, I don't know, 10 seconds, and then you have to put, "Hi, I'm blank," with musical guest blank, and then there's like 4 seconds left for a joke. And they've already done 10 million promos, so you're trying to think of anything weird or different. And I would personally have to write about 20, give them to Marcy Klein. She would hand them in to Lauren or whoever, or the host, and they would kill a lot of them, like the host would kill a couple.
Kill them. Now, having hosted, they kill them with prejudice. They even go like, "We hate this one. We hate this one. We know you won't like it. It's mean. It's mean about you. This writer's an asshole. Read it." And I go, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This writer is trying to fuck you over. I remember I just saw a clip of someone on Instagram, and it was a live shot of promos, and it was Eddie Vedder was music, Emilio Estevez was the host, and it's me and Lauren just milling around in the back.
Wow.
And I'm pointing and showing Eddie Vedder something, and then Lauren nods his head like, "Do that one, do the one." Then we step back, and they go 3, 2. So they had like a 3-minute chunk of promos, which was, I didn't even know they're filming. It's so weird that would get out somewhere.
And wouldn't Lauren, if you finally got it, wouldn't he put his hands in his pocket and then turn and walk away? I don't know. It seemed like
I liked it.
Hands in the pocket, and he would pivot. But
John, you like it? Yeah.
I like
or
Thursdays.
Say something cryptic like, "Well, less is less."
Yeah. Some people think it's funny. See you at the party.
Are we trying to repel viewers?
We're on in all 50 states, I feel like was a note I got a lot on monologue jokes. As if I was writing like for the crowd at CBGB's in New York. It was sort of like, he goes, "I know below 14th Street that works," he said.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, really?
He literally just thinks of America as just New York.
Especially before there's going to be a vacation or a break. It's our last show before the break, and it would be like nice if it was like really, really funny.
You're going to see a lot of people over the break, and wouldn't you like it if they said, hey, that last show was really good?
I know we're not nervous enough.
And also I was like, are you seeing a bunch of people during break? Because I'm laying on my couch watching DVDs with like a sty in my eye. Only Lauren was doing heavy socializing during the break.
His endurance
John,
to work that. Yeah, no one like him.
A lot of people will tell you you're the funniest one in the show. You're not.
Wow.
That's what I got a lot.
You really?
And I go, oh. And he goes, it just happens. It's okay. And I go, well, it stings a little to hear that. I didn't knock on his door and say, Lauren, I'm hearing a lot of people say I'm the funniest person.
It'd be now kind of being out of it for many years and having a wonderful, I mean, I always loved Lauren, but having a really nice relationship with him, it would be fun to go back and do those things.
I know.
Hey, do you think, I don't mean to interrupt you. You're with Chris Dodd, but do you think I'm the funniest writer?
Senator.
Because a lot of people in my family and my high school say I should be on more. Thoughts on that?
I have family in Milwaukee that think I should be on more.
Yeah.
They're fucking you, man.
Well, you weren't as stressed, were you? Because you were just writing and then they would pop you an update, which is like more of a gift, and it wasn't expected.
Total gift.
It's probably better.
I had the absolute best situation that you could ask for. Honestly, like I look back on it and there were a few gifts. It looked like you were getting up and leaving, David.
I haven't even.
No, I like the idea that, like, as a listener, that sometimes when someone's about to go into a long story, David always just does a quick errand.
Yeah, I just got to go wash my car.
So writing there means producing there, like, as you know. So you got to produce live television. You work with every department, and you really own your piece. You do everything for it. And you're given a nice amount of credit behind the scenes for it. I'd already been doing stand-up and continued doing it. And do you know what made the biggest difference, though? I got to pop up on Update. And honestly, Bill Hader, when he would do press about the about something, and they'd talk to him about sketches on the show, it means a lot to me. The more over the years I think about it, like he would always name me and give me credit for it.
Yeah.
Which was not done a lot before that. And
I try not to do it.
Yeah, no, I try not to do it now that I'm more of an on-camera guy. But no,
that seems
it really meant a lot, because it was sort of like, I felt like I had a bit of a reputation in comedy as, he's a writer there, and we sometimes hear about what he's written.
Right.
And at the same time, I got to pop up on Update a couple times, which, like, yeah, that's just 10 million people. I've been on VH1's Best Week Ever 100,000 times at that point. So I was like, I've been on TV, but
what was your nerve level?
That's one of my questions about Best Week Ever.
Being a writer and then doing Update, because you're not acclimated to performing, you're writing, and all of a sudden you're in that chair and they throw you out.
That Saturday was like, not only am I terrified, not only am I under a lot of stress as a writer, but I have to go out there tonight. Yeah, those were out of body.
Do you remember what you did? What your first one was? Like, here comes John Mulaney saying a word.
It was Girl Scout cookie season, and I did an editorial about how, like, the Girl Scout business model is completely flawed because they have a, like, tremendously popular product that they sell once a year in front of like a Gelson's, from a little lunch table. I can't remember specific jokes about it, but that was that. So it was like, I remember thinking before I did it, I was like, this isn't real. This is sort of like I've got a complaint about the Girl Scout cookies, like, hey, Girl Scouts. But I was sort of like, I'm so inexperienced at this. I'd rather play an attitude. So I'm like, I'd rather pretend to be the guy actually mad about this.
Right.
than not have
mad is not a bad angle on Update.
No, when you need something and you're
energy.
Young and have nothing, it's good to act like you are exasperated.
And
by
did you pound
events.
table and get animated, or did you kind of push it?
I remember at one point I go, have you ever put Thin Mints in the freezer? They're delicious. Like, sell them year round. It was a real, like, when in doubt, act extremely exasperated, which I've followed my whole career. But I remember before I went out on the update desk, Lauren looked at me and he said, he goes, relax your face. He goes, when you get out there, take a beat, relax your face.
Oh, funny.
And look directly into the camera like you're talking to someone you know. But I remember relax your face was a good note because I was going to come out
like this,
looking extremely high strung.
John, let me add Dana. I just have
David,
7 in a row.
I have
7 in a row for John.
questions.
John, when you go out there and it's Saturday and you're doing update, I think when you're a writer, the one extra layer you don't think of is how you look. And it sounds egotistical, but all day you're like, oh, wait, I got to get hair, makeup. What am I wearing? And then sometimes they'll go, I wouldn't wear that. And you go,
I know, yeah.
For an update, what do I wear? And
They
go,
won't tell
not
you
that.
what to wear, but
Yeah, not that.
yeah.
Not that, yeah. No, I remember I brought my little shirt and sport coat from home. And it was like a blue shirt and a navy blue jacket. It was the, safest possible choice.
Tested, safest, yeah.
I remember showing it to Tom Broker in costumes and being like, I was thinking of this. And he goes, he went, yeah, as if like to say like, look, we have an entire show to design. We couldn't possibly care what you wear on your cut it dress update.
Well, that's honest. That's
You think you're getting on? Oh, you think you're going all the way to the show? Then
I know. Yeah, it was that. And I think I said to him like, this shirt doesn't. Don't worry, it doesn't like moire on camera.
Like dance on camera.
Yeah, it doesn't dance on. Don't worry, Tom. My shirt will be fine on air.
He goes, you'll cross my mind at 11 when I realize you're on the show.
Yeah, and then we'll ask you to maybe do something about the adult acne.
So I go, hey, Tom, I brought a shirt. It doesn't wrinkle. I got one of those kinds that doesn't wrinkle. He's like, I don't give a fuck, dude. And I'm like, okay.
as if like Emmy and Tony Award winning costume designers would be impressed by a wrinkle-free shirt.
Yeah, I know. That's the funniest part.
How'd you get that, man?
They're like, well, we're all worried about what you're doing on the show. We don't care.
Did anyone ever call, any old timer ever call you kid? Because you used that in your specials. Hey, kid, it ain't going to work out for you, kid. I'll be honest with you, kid.
I will say what was nice was that even people like Phil Himes,
the lighting director,
everyone in the booth and they learn your name, which means, so I didn't get kid, but I once had a sketch on that was like it was an impression parade. It was just every cast member doing an impression. And I changed it a great deal in between dress and air. So on air, I watched in the booth and it didn't go great.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little clunky. And I'm walking out of the booth and I walked past Phil. I'm pretty, it's at a low point in the season. Like it's like February doldrums or something. I'm walking past Phil and he goes, not your best work. And I was like getting this like I've been here 4 years kind of edge. So I was like, what, Phil? Like what?
Oh,
you got up in his grill?
And he went, you know why that wasn't good? And I go, why? And he goes, none of the people sounded like the people.
And that's not your fault. Yeah. But Phil Himes.
I know, but I like that review of an impression piece. None of the people sounded like the
Yeah, that's a really what you don't want to hear.
Just so listeners know, Phil Himes, he seemed old the entire time I was there. And he had this cranky exterior, but then he was an incredible heart of gold underneath and incredibly sweet. But he was kind of intimidating in the early days. What do you want? What do you want? You want a light there? We can't get it there, But then he would put the light there. I got it for you, kid.
And then, yeah. And we were once doing, I think Fred as Obama. I didn't write it. Colin Jost wrote it. It was like a Christmas time Oval Office piece. And we wanted Fred to look out the windows behind the desk in the Oval Office and see like snow falling, like a kind of a cheesy Christmas moment. So I remember I was for some reason on the floor with Colin and Seth. We were telling Phil how
Oh boy.
we
What you wanted to look like.
how we thought it should look.
Oh boy. Oh,
And
no.
he looked at us and he went, I lit John Kennedy in the White House and walked away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so.
David, I heard a story that you and Phil had like a close relationship. Is that right?
Phil Himes?
Yeah.
I did think, I mean, other than having sex, we were just sort of like buddy. No, he would just always bust my balls when I walk around there. So I thought it was funny.
Well, I heard when you were hosting, he came out and said, "Oh God, he's back."
Yeah, of course.
That's very.
And
Phil,
I heard you
but-
said, Phil, I heard you died. And they dug you out.
Well, he is old. Well,
Yeah,
But he
he's
was
so old.
60 for 50 years. I mean, he was, yeah.
He was a hard 90 when I met him. It was like that. I think one of the first things I learned at SNL was that Don Pardo and Phil Himes, two extremely integral people here, are solidly north of 90.
Yeah,
Hard
mid
90s.
to late 90s and spry.
Yeah, like a couple of the most important people here are north of 90, and like,
yeah.
you got to give them a wide berth at the pudding table.
I heard you say something about asking about how people date the host now, and I thought it was so funny because I think you were saying that for us it sounds a little dicey. Like back in our day, the hosts were so off limits as far as just mentally, you know, you don't do anything. And I remember we have beautiful hosts. We have talented. I think Marissa Tomei was there after my cousin Vinny, and there's so many that were great. But I would be so scared if you even flirted with a host and it got back to you, you know, like they complain like HR, and then Lauren, David, were you asking out Susan Day? You're making her uncomfortable. Like if it came back that you were making a host uncomfortable, wouldn't that be, it's obviously worked every time so far, but it seems like if you asked out a host and they didn't like it, then it would be, you'd be in so much trouble.
I didn't even know we could like
Hang out.
Yeah, I would have never been like, you know, I would always be like, I'll have a page call your manager's assistant. You know, the idea of even like reaching out personally. And I wrote a lot of
outside the show.
I wrote a lot of during the week. I mean, like I wrote a lot of monologues, and occasionally there'd be this like, hey, Thursday night, 2 a.m. or Friday night, 2 a.m. The host suddenly has a thought about the monologue, and that was fine. That's what the schedule was. But like, yeah, to even be in contact with a host, let alone ask them out.
And without having a script in your hand to walk up to them for what reason? You know what I mean?
I know.
Hey, what's up?
I always felt like when Simon, Rich, and I, in most weeks, we wrote a monologue for the host. I didn't even sense if they thought we were writers. Like, I think they thought we were just like two children with pieces of paper who kept asking them like not personal questions, but like Wikipedia level questions. We would just be like, so maybe something about, I think your family has a lot of dogs. And they'd be like, why are you telling me about that? I'd be like, we're just trying to think of any angle for you.
Yeah, it is hard because no one introduced you like as the writers. You just walk up and they go ask, you know, and you have to go up to some huge star and say, hey.
I always liked Tuesday night when they bring the host around to each office, because they could be the biggest star in the world, but they had to sit on my couch. Like
Filthy.
They had to sit on my like with me and Bobby Moynihan smoking inside with the window cracked, as if that's at all acceptable. And like, you just had to sit there, Mick Jagger.
Sit there, and now you're going to hear a like crummy idea.
Now you're going to hear an idea that kind of makes fun of you, that you won't like.
Now you're going to hear a fake idea, and then if you like it, it's a real idea. I make fake questions. I go, Mick, can you do a Russian accent? And he goes, probably. And I go, nah, this one's out. I crumple it up.
That's very cool.
I go, I'll save this for next week.
I remember pitching an idea in my office to Josh Brolin, and he went, I mean, well, it's not funny.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's the then that's the litmus test. I'm not gonna. He's sort of like, I mean, and I didn't mean to make it sound like he was really harsh. It was more like, well, you can write it, it's not funny. And I was like, well, then you just saved me a couple hours.
You could spend the rest of the night writing it.
Yeah.
And I'll pull it from read through.
Yeah, and I'll have it pulled, and I'll let them know I told you I didn't like it, so you'll be in trouble with Marcy.
Dude, when a host is reading a sketch, and if it's your sketch, and they quietly give up in the middle, it's so sickening just to watch them take a dive. And like they don't really get it.
I've seen hosts suddenly put like the celery in their mouths, like truly be like, I'm going to eat during the rest of this.
Just a signal, yeah.
Or they're whispering if they can get an order of food sent in during your sketch. Like, hey, is there any way they get up?
You always try to discern a little bit. I know we've talked about this before, like Lorne reading the stage directions. Does he stay involved? Does he kind of think he's hooking something great? Or is he sort of middle of the road? Or is he done with it? There's a whole energy thing. It's hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah, because Lorne reads the stage directions, and he starts out pretty high energy, like CNN bumper. And then...
yeah, that's at 3 o'clock.
I like when he kind of summarizes it towards the end.
Yeah.
Like, he'll start to summarize it like, Kristen has a hat and walks in and Keenan's there. Like, he'll read a whole paragraph and boil it down to the key. Kristen enters as Reba McEntire.
5 hours.
It really takes the energy out of it, and you're like, oh, he gave up.
David enters.
And when
with
people
funny
write
hat.
long stage directions to describe some farcical, like slamming doors comedy, I'm always like, you know who's going to read that, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, you know how that'll get presented at read through, don't you, homie?
Yeah, or they write Schneider used to write, or he would call you out. Like if you go, and then the doorman, played by Phil Himes, and everyone laughs, and Rob goes, trick, not a real laugh, don't count it.
He would yell that out during read through?
Yeah, he would say trick, because he didn't want you to get
out?
Schneider.
Oh, Schneider. It's a trick. It's a total trick. That's
because
not
you're not gonna get that laugh on the real show.
It's
That's
not
just
funny.
a read
Come
through
on.
laugh, flag.
Man, how was that graded? That seems
that's a little harsh.
No, Schneider was funny because he would do things to almost intentionally rub you wrong, just to go, it's fine.
Yeah, he was just.
He'd say about 3 years in, you're coming along. Anyway, by the way,
copy machine guy.
I watched I think it was your last monologue on there. Any differences hosting along the way, other than you're just getting better at it, or maybe you're not getting better at it? It's
5 times in like with a COVID year in between. So like in 3 years, 5 or something very condensed.
That's a lot. Yeah, 2 in 2020.
So what's that all about?
Two. I'd like to do 2 in a pandemic.
Yeah, that was the request.
That was a really. Well, wait, what's the question?
I don't know.
It's been so cool. It's been so fun. I definitely have had thoughts like, I'm like, oh, maybe the second time I hosted was, I believe when Lauren says you're getting better each time, because that makes sense. There's moments where I go, oh, but on the second time I hosted, I had this laugh here and whatever. But I've had more and more fun each time. The first time I hosted, I was deeply in my head about
normal.
This wasn't going to be good, and this wasn't only not going to be good, but everyone was going to go, see, we told you to stay behind the camera. We've been clear with you where you belong in this show. The audacity of you to show up and try to do this. Like, I really thought like I had a very weird kind of, I remember the Friday night before, I was like miserable. I was like, I'm so bad at SNL. And that's the thing I thought I knew the best. And then I had a really fun show. And I realized that I was just trying to make myself miserable, because if I'm miserable the night before, then it will be a good show.
Oh, that's a good trick. Yeah.
This trick I used to do. but I try not to do it anymore because it's too excruciating throughout the day. And like mental health wise, to tie myself into knots so that I quote unquote, deserve a good show because I'm so miserable. By the second time I hosted, I made an active choice. I was like, I'm going to be happy all week. I'm going to have fun all week. And if it's a bad show, then I'll know that it was wrong to have fun, but at least I will have had fun. And it was a very good show. So since then, I've been like, you have to enjoy these weeks. Otherwise, what's the point?
It is funny to take such a beating over yourself when you host. Dana probably feels the same way. You're just so stressed. And then at the end, you're like, why do I even do this? Like right before the show, you're like, I feel so sick and tied up and twisted. And then you go, I did it. And you're like, so I did it. Now the fun starts. I'm at the wrap party. It's the only time I'm starting to have fun. It's over. And you realize, could I just get to the point where I have fun the whole time?
I had a little bit of, I couldn't really live up to what the lucky, crazy, fortunate 3 or 4 years I had on the show with Wayne's World and all the stuff. So, it was always, you'll do Church Lady, and then it was, you'll do George Bush Senior, and it's like 18 years later. So the thing in my head was like, how do I compete with that across the board? And that was kind of difficult for and especially I think what's nice, the way it's happening for you, John, is that it's kind of condensed. It's not like you hosted it in 2013 and then you're coming back 8 years later. I think it's kind of nice that you've done 5 already in a short period of time, just to acclimate to that.
Yeah. No one's expecting a lot of growth.
Well, but you have those stand-up specials, and then your monologue is always great, pretty much, right? I mean, because that's your superpower. And so that sets a great,
but also
great tone.
I remember saying to Gerard Carmichael, who had an amazing episode as a host this year, who's a brilliant comedian and a brilliant many things. I remember I was like, it was when I was talking to him, I realized I was like, oh, you know what? It's 8 minutes of stand up in front of 10 million people. And you're the only thing. I realized it's like, you're the only thing on NBC for 10 minutes. Like your stand up is the only thing happening on Saturday night.
Well, that's a very relaxing reminder.
I find that kind of emboldening. It's like, wow.
You got to go out with an attitude. I mean, how do you do your specials? I mean, how many times do you shoot a special? Like, say, 2. Kid Gorgeous. Just two shows. That's
2 in one night?
2 shows. I think it was one night.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with that pressure if the first show in your mind is like a C+, just in your mind?
The first show of Kid Gorgeous was a C+ in my mind. I was so disappointed. I couldn't believe it. I'd been on tour for so long, and now this special was bad. It was going to be so bad that everyone would be mad at me or disappointed in me and say, you used to be good and you're bad, and we don't like you, and all of that stuff. And
have you had therapy? Okay. We'll talk about that later.
It's funny.
I've had a ton of it, so go ahead.
Well, John, also the cameras are there. I've done a few, but the cameras are there. It just throws it off somehow. It's just not a normal club or theater night when there's cameras. The audience is stressed. Everyone's different. It's just not the way it normally is.
The thing is, like, I remembered that it's. I thought the second show felt better. So when I say I came to some epiphany, I didn't. Just the second show felt better. But were I to pretend I had an epiphany that night, I'd say no one else has done every show with me, so they're not comparing them. Yeah. And this is the film of the material. Like a special is for the cameras, and I think it was Whitney Cummings gave me that advice after she had done her sitcom Whitney, and then she did her first special after that. And I remember she said to me, we play so big because we're trying to play it at the back of the room. But I think it'd been something she learned doing a 3-camera sitcom. Like, it's for the camera. And I've thought about that each time since, that it's for the camera. The size of the performance is for the camera.
And also I mean, where the area where you could maybe have a good night or a bad night, because the material is immaculate and it's really, really, it's like a magic trick. It's so fun to watch your stand-up.
Oh, thanks,
because it's
Dan.
flowing so organically.
Well, he's talking to me.
Sorry. Yeah, Spade.
I said that to David before the show. But right. Then you're also doing a lot of sneakily physical comedy, and you're throwing your voice, and you're moving, so you're performing it as well. So I would assume on some nights with a hot crowd, you may take a rhythm slightly further, or the bit you did about Jagger. Not fun. You'd throw one more in. Is that where there's a little bit of improv when you're on and the crowd is with you? You go to that other level. Right?
Oh my God. When the crowd is with me, sometimes when the crowd's not with me, I'm like, do I even have skills? Can I even perform to a slightly indifferent audience? Like, I should be able to do this. Like, I should be able to still do the 90 minutes. But if they're not if you don't feel like they're, carrying your chair and at the Jewish wedding, if you don't feel that bounce, I'll suddenly be like, how the hell do I do this? What do I give it? What am I doing? I'm giving a speech.
Well, you think you're horrible. You're like, am I doing stand-up? Because nothing's working. It's almost like, did this turn into a corporate gig? Why am I bombing
did this turn into a corporate gig? And then I always want to ask the audience, I want to be like, hey, are you embarrassed for me? Is that happening? Is that happening now too? Yeah. Are you
feel the discomfort in the room, and then the elephant in the room that no one is saying, and you can't hear it, is like this realization on their side, not as good as I thought he would be. I guess this is kind of a rough night. And then sometimes it takes a lot of guts and a lot of determination to go, fuck it. And you try to win them. And you normally can't, but you just really the last
sickening. Yeah, I do it.
Minutes.
Oh, yeah. No, but I think that is the right move. I remember when Nick Kroll and I were doing Oh Hello on Broadway, our director, Alex Timbers, said to us, because doing 8 shows a week, for 16, 18 weeks, whatever it was.
Brutal.
Well, we'd have crowds that were just Broadway ticket holders who heard, oh, there's a comedy, and didn't know it was me and Nick screaming in turtlenecks and being insane. And Alex Timbers said to us, hey, I noticed that some nights when the crowds aren't great, you guys decide to pull way back and just amuse each other, and you do the show poorly. And we were like, yeah, because fuck them, right?
Yeah. And it's only $300.
I remember he goes, here's an idea. When they're not good, you guys try to be twice as good. And we were like, oh, as if it was another way to show them we don't care. But it was a good trick he put in our heads. Because now when it's bad, I think, well, I'm going to pretend this is on film.
Sure.
And people will study it in terms of how good you can be even when a crowd is bad.
I think people, when you're not doing well and people later say, no, it was good. There's some people that smile and the vibe of the crowd isn't to be too noisy. So they don't want to be too loud. So they're just kind of liking it and smiling, and they don't know it's a bad show. And later they go,
not at all. They don't.
I thought it was great. And you're like, and you're telling them how bad it was. And they're like, no, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, and you go like that part normally gets that part normally goes to applause, and normally they're
normally
like, they're like, that was my favorite part. And I'm like, a lot of times there's someone in the front row that looks like my dad, so I go, oh, there he is now, and everyone that normally goes to applause, but that didn't happen tonight.
And they're like, oh, so it was bad. And you're
what is it about? Yeah. When I was coming up, like Steve Martin was God. He was huge, and he would play stadiums or arenas. And now there's so many comedians, and I'll bring it back around to you, that just are playing 20,000 seaters. And I don't know when this started for you, but now you're playing Madison Square Garden for 4 nights, if I read it right, or 3 nights?
3 nights.
So what does that do to your brain? How do you think about yourself? Because that is so much love of your fans. I mean, it's just like insane, right? How do you wrap your mind around that?
One should not get used to it. I just keep thinking that it's pretty It's pretty funny, man. It's pretty.
Yeah, it's like, just a big room. It's a big room.
Well, it's so, I mean, I just want to give you a compliment. It's so hard to get to those big venues. And I was looking, you're on a tour right now. And if you look at the venues, I'm like, holy shit, this guy is hitting the biggest spots. And Hollywood Bowl is huge. Who would ever get to play that as a stand-up? You don't even think of that when you're a stand-up.
Yeah, he's playing Northern California. There's a stadium in the Sierra Nevadas, and it's an open-air thing. And John is
playing
doing
Yellowstone.
He's playing Yellowstone. Park. But what do you do with like when you go out? Or you?
It feels it's like it's a kind of, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's imposter syndrome, which might sound really arrogant. I don't mean like I'm up there and I'm like, yeah, I belong here. But I do recognize that the crowds have grown and grown, and now we're in a basketball court.
Yeah.
And that's so
and at home base. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's sort of a like, okay, this is where it's at now. And I'm so there's a few things happening at once. It's only been this year that I've played arenas. It's the first tour I've had since a couple trips to rehab institutions. So
what do you mean rehab? I haven't heard this story.
Well, listen, no one knows about this.
Well, that I want to ask you only about that, how it pertains to your stand-up, just because.
Well, it pertains to like, I think if I, oh man, thank God cocaine and arenas didn't overlap. Oh, dear God, I'm just realizing now that would have been a disaster. There is something extremely fun. There's an energy about playing an arena that's very like, holy shit. If ever a person took this for granted, they might become rather intolerable. That's what I think. And so I'm really lucky to do it. I know it can't sustain. It won't be this forever. So at the moment, I'm just kind of like, enjoy it, because this is literally, like this won't last, and that's okay. So I wouldn't say it's imposter syndrome so much as I'm acutely aware that this is just a moment in time.
Well, did you think, John, right? Did you think, I'm doing David now. So, you have those specials that explode on Netflix, and then you do the 5 hosting, and then there's the pandemic, and then you have this rehab issue. Did you ever think that would...
didn't have an issue with rehab. It was more drugs.
Oh, okay. So that led to the rehab. But
rehabs were quite healthy.
It feels to me like there was your fan base just saw you more human, and do you feel a bigger connection in a way? Maybe it's like an Oprah question or something, but with your fans after that episode? Because they're your friend, you know what I mean? They relate, and everybody's got
I can't,
issues.
There's no, I'll just be kind of sappy for a second.
We love that here.
It means, I didn't know if I'd be on a stage again. I didn't know what, I was at a point where it wasn't just that, today was miserable. It was that I could absolutely guarantee you tomorrow was miserable. So to be doing shows and to, look, I'm aware that someone's persona, and I'm aware that it might have thrown. I'm aware that it was a new information to people. I've been upfront that I'd used drugs in the past, but I understand it was new information to people. I think I'm humble enough to know that, fans can, I'm very grateful people come to the shows. It's not that I think that, revelation about me would make people not come. I don't mean that. I just mean that I also I want to be a realist about entertainment, and to maybe have one kind of image and then have it be made clear I was dealing with a lot more stuff, and then have people still come. That I feel very lucky to physically be there on stage, and I feel It is so nice. I feel
if you
so
don't,
lucky that
John, if you don't mind talking about it, like when you said you maybe didn't think you'd ever do it again, was that your what kind of bottom was that? I mean, were you seriously thinking I may never do stand up anymore?
It was like
you don't have to answer these
it was
questions.
kind of it was almost like being in. It was like kind of like that's a good question. Exactly how to articulate it. It was a bit like a horror movie where I was like, how did I like I don't trust this sounds a little dark, but it's not a super happy topic, so that's fine. I was sort of like, I don't trust being alone with me. I mean, I'm the person that did all this damage to myself. When you're a drug addict, you're with the person that has tried to destroy you all the time. So I just didn't have a sense of, I was like, wow, I don't know if the person in charge of this life has any clue what they're doing. It wasn't so much, oh, I can't do stand-up without drugs, because I didn't use and do stand-up. That wasn't really what was happening. It was more like, I might have absolutely no idea how to manage my life.
Yeah, because it was the second episode was maybe harder in a way. The relapse.
Yeah, because I'd had a lot of problems when I was in my early 20s, and I'd stopped by age 23 and had a long bout of sobriety, but through prescription drugs and other things, started to slip and then slipped hard.
And do you think that it's a genetic predisposition, like the way your brain is situated and the way the drugs hit your brain? Can you specify why it appealed to you at that level? Or because it seems like addicts sometimes they can be hypersensitive or redundant thinkers or whatever kind of mental health would predispose them to want to.
Yeah, it's a good question, because like I do love life. Like I have a lot of fun. I always have laughed very hard multiple times a week with like really funny friends. And like, I'm lucky to be in this life as a comedian where it's pretty fun. I have my own demons, but it's pretty fucking fun. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I was also like, I have wonderful parents. I had a lot of green lights. It's hard to say that I had some inclination to mess up my life. A couple things in my case. I think I've had a lot of anxiety in life, so some of the chemicals that help that I certainly are very addictive. And then I do think addiction is a disease, and I think I have this, oh, let's do more. Oh, let's do more. I mean, there's something in my brain that does that. It wasn't always, it wasn't, it wasn't a story of someone who was always going to self-destruct. Life just became hard.
And now you're out the other side, and have a son. So it's such a complete shift. So then that's like, okay, that's real grown-up stuff, right?
When I heard you had,
it's the greatest.
It is.
When you're in rehab, I was like, I don't think so. That guy wears a suit on stage.
Yeah, it's been proven people in ties don't have problems.
I mean, it threw me. And did we have dinner at Koi one night? Was it me, you, Dana, and Hader? Was it and Judd?
Yep, Judd. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like one of the few times we've gotten to even. That was a fun night. We took a picture.
Yeah, we did take a picture. You guys came and did my Largo show.
Yeah, that was great.
Dana, you and Bill read.
Yeah, you did sketches. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, a sketch that I wrote with
Casey
Bill
Kasem,
when Dana hosted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same hosting stint when we bombarded you with Mickey Rooney requests.
But I was regrettable at the time. The only thing about Mickey Rooney was the first time I had some prosthetics that created the illusion, and it helped me too, doing Mickey Rooney. And then that time, whatever quick change, for whatever reason, it kind of looked like me, and it just didn't, And then Casey Kasem bombed. But
did you have little legs? The first time you did it?
I did the first time.
Yeah.
For some reason, the look wasn't the same. And then it wasn't my best hosting effort, but I think I'm in large part to blame for that. If
no, he goes, the wedding was bad that week.
Now that I remember that you remember that the Mickey Rooney and Casey Kasem that we begged you to do were not at the moment. Roy.
But I love the passion, how much you guys loved it. And Casey Kasem killed a 300-seat theater. Bill and I read it again in front of you. We explained it a little better. It's sketch 101. They just didn't hook it. It was over in the corner. And once the
audience... Too big of a set, too. Too big of a set.
Giant set. They didn't hook the premise.
I always want sketches like that to just look like a Garfield cartoon, like a single square animation cell. Like you just
and it was massive,
and it was a massive backyard. The sketch was Casey Kasem and his son JC Kasem. Are having a fight, and they both talk like Casey Kasem, and it was like, son, I know you've been borrowing money to buy crystal meth. And how do you know that, Dad? Here's a letter.
Yeah.
Like it was that. It was just them both talking like
there's a letter.
Son, I know that you've been borrowing money to buy crystal meth. And here's a letter.
It's that classic Casey Kasem, for people who've ever heard him. Rhythm.
And then
checking in at number 5, the boss. Bruce
my favorite line was, well, Dad, you were always hounding me with questions. When are you going to stop hanging out with those deadbeats? When are you going to do something with your life? And which female vocalist had more number 1 hits than any other?
Debbie
and
Boone.
Then Dana says, the answer, Mariah Carey.
The answer,
So why do you think, for young people...
Why would that bomb?
Well, I thought it was because...
Too big of a set. We've already explained. It wasn't the writing. It wasn't the performance.
I was washing my car, John.
It was a quiet...
They're kind of quiet voices. They don't really project that much.
And I think if you're in the audience and a camera's going by, or they're leading a horse across the studio, they don't hook it the first...
Leading a horse across
just
studio.
Noise, ambient.
Distractions,
If it was cold opening in the center with a simple slats,
you weren't at home base? Were you one of those secret sets? Dana used to go, never be in the fucking dead zone over there where Gap Girls is.
I would go where they were writing up planning where the sketches would be.
You'd go tell him to put you right in front.
Why is my sketch not there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember watching, I think it was a Wayne's World. I was talking to Steve Higgins, and I was like, why is this? I mean, besides the fact that it was so popular, I was like, does this feel like they're just yelling directly at an adoring audience? And he was like, because those were at home base. Like everything that seems like, why is this like right in the lens, right down the barrel, right to the audience? So then all of us would go up to Don Roy King during the production meeting Wednesday night. All the writers would go like, we think this could play at home base. So
I think it could play at home.
I remember one time he had, because they write in, they pencil in everything that will go in one section. A schematic. And there were like 6 sketches that were trying to play at home base.
Well, they would say to me, well, you can't have it at home base because you have an entrance. And I go, what if I get rid of the entrance? And they go, well, then you could have it at home base.
Oh, wow. What a scammer.
Then I would go to Victoria Jackson and go, you got to just be in the set the whole time. I don't know how much longer we have, but I was going to just ask you your latest thoughts about your son, and how old is he? Because I don't follow.
Okay, my son Malcolm is 6 months old.
Okay, so you and your significant Olivia are racing for that first smile in the morning when he's in his crib, and
we're racing for that first. What'd you say?
First smile. The first smile. He's smiling now, right?
The first smile. Sorry, I thought you said the first smile.
I'm a little bit drunk. No, but anyway.
That's very funny you mentioned that. We both love to wake him up together, and he'll be kind of like, what I love about Malcolm, one, he's my son. So that's what I love about him.
That's good. It's good you love him, and as good as your son.
No, but also he's so independent. Like I listened to him on the Miku, on the baby monitor, and he's just babbling to himself Like as he's trying to fall asleep, he's just talking like, ah, blah, 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 blah. He kind of sounds like Jiminy Glick. Like he's like, ah, blah, blah,
or Adam Sandler. Oh,
yeah, a little bit like Adam Sandler.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of low register, like, yeah.
He's doing characters.
He's doing character work. And also, I think he enjoys the reverberation of his voice in this. When he was sleeping in this pack and play the other night. And I was like, you really just
pack and play.
You love the sound that it's making in your little crib there. So we love to come in and he's just, I don't know, he's so independent. He's just chatting with his like stuffed elephant in the crib with him.
Well, that moment where they wake up and they're sleeping.
So right now when we're traveling,
and he sees
we have a pack and play, so we unzip the top of it, this cover, and he's sitting there and goes, like flashes,
and then
the biggest
the face
smile.
goes,
and that
it's
pack and play is like a duffel bag you carry him in or something.
Well, it does kind of fold up into what looks like those bags they carry machine guns in.
Yeah.
It's a long black bag that becomes a crib.
Because at the beginning, it's just a shoebox you have to carry them in. And then as they get older, I don't know how it works.
Yeah, when a baby's born, they tell you to put it in a shoebox with shredded newspaper.
And you got to keep them stimulated. There's a lot of focus on kids. It even started when I was...
Oh, more now. My God, you must be getting it from all sides.
Keep them mentally stimulated. You'll make a genius. You feed them this way. It's like so much.
Goddamn. Everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah, he likes songs that the Wrecking Crew worked on, the famous studio musicians.
Yeah.
He kind of likes there's something
Rhythm
about
blues.
that. Yeah, the Righteous Brothers and those Phil Spector Wall of Sound. I think there's something sonically to a baby. You know, like I've always said, babies love Phil Spector.
Well, the baby, when he's 3, if he picks up a rock, people will go, he's going to be an archaeologist. I mean, everyone's going to want to project. I think he's funny like you. You know, I've seen it. Anyway.
There's nothing like Instagram when they say on Instagram, there's always someone in trouble for doing something wrong with their kids, and then everyone writes in a million comments. You should not do that. It's like, no one. Why do you give a fuck about my kid? Like, are you going to come babysit?
I've always wanted to put as a caption, if anyone has any parenting thoughts, please leave them in the comments.
Yeah, please.
I'm about to give my 6-month-old a bunch of pork sausage and dairy. If anyone has any thoughts.
What's a good toaster I should put in the tub with him? Yeah. But John, I would say we have to let you go. But first of all, great chatting. I saw you at Largo. I saw Olivia the other night. It was a lot of fun to see you.
You were hilarious. It was great to see you. David, we were talking for a while that just you backstage talking about trying to sell your house was the funniest 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I've heard in so long.
You know, it's funny. My special just came out. You guys are talking about specials, and I don't
David
came out on thedirt.com, right? On the real estate website.
That's where my special came out, which was so stupid.
It was released on dirt.com.
But everyone knows about your house now.
What's the name of the special, David? Let's do some housekeeping.
Oh, it's called Nothing Personal.
Nothing Personal.
I wanted to say to John that, and Dana, you might feel this, when you get to bigger, I don't tour as much. I actually, this first time I was sort of doing some theaters, and they're not as big as yours, but even if it's 2,000-3,000 seats, I sometimes feel like I'm not enough. It's almost like more pressure to go. I can picture a band here like wailing away to fill this big energy. So much more energy than a club, and people are paying more, and it's a big deal. There's a line outside, and you go, I'm just here talking a little bit. It feels like it's not enough for them, and I had a weird thing about that where I go, I want to be extra good or do a little something more razzle dazzle. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I really like. I remember hearing an interview with Chris Rock when Bring the Pain came out about why he paces so much. It's like, I got to fill the stage. And I've never forgotten that. I mean, I like a lot of mic cord and a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never saw, I always think that I'm like, this is just me. This is like a random person talking about very specific topics. What is this?
And everyone just quietly listening.
Yeah, maybe I'll just yell.
I got off stage to talk about having a tough set. Like my first taping, most comics, for you listeners, pick a place and they do 2 shows in one night, mostly.
Yeah.
Adam got to do a little more, but you do that, then you pick the best out of the 2, whatever. And I got off stage. My opener wasn't doing as well as he usually does, and I'm like, oh, please don't be a fucking tough crowd, And then I get on it, and they were tough for the first 5, and I'm like, these people are coming to see me, and they're my fans, and this is tough. And I get off, and I go, shit, well, the second one will be a little better. And they go, they have N95s on. I go, no, they don't. And no one told me. They had those masks on.
So you went out and didn't know they were all in the N95s?
I didn't even think, because we moved it there because it was during COVID, and they go, you do get a crowd. They might have to wear masks, but I think of the blue ones. But I heard they walked in, everyone had to take theirs off, and they were given the worst kind of drywall mask.
What state was this in?
It was Minnesota, and I have to say they were a good crowd. It's just when 50% of it's gone and you can't hear it, because they even look like a good crowd. They're moving, they're bending over, laughing, and I'm like, I just see the front rows, but I go, oh, what's going on? Because it's so bright when I taped. I couldn't really see what I could use.
You had waited 6 weeks to do it when they didn't have to have the mask.
Well, it wasn't to bore the shit out of you. It was in Austin. Oh. And because Netflix, there's some rules you have to, for COVID, blah, blah. And Austin said, no, we won't abide by it. So I had either wait 6 months or the next weekend I was doing Minnesota.
When you guys go out now, they're not wearing masks, or some are, right?
Nah, there's still a couple, but
I think it's dealer's choice. I think because I see people with them, but those are, for a while there was show your Vax card, or if you don't have it, you get, if you showed your Vax card, you got a wristband. If you didn't have a wristband, you had to have the mask on. But crowds have been really understanding about it, which is nice.
They're still coming, which is nice, and that's
whenever there's a surge too. Whenever there's a surge on tour, it's sort of like, okay, some stuff might get canceled, and like whatever is best for the health and safety of the crowd is the best choice. But I'll sometimes look at the map and my calendar and be like, well, I got luckily, like my Florida and Arizona won't be canceled.
Yeah.
You look at a few states where you're like, they're
never going to cancel.
They're never going to cancel. Yeah.
Well, they say some people for a while there during when there's a last surge, they go, just expect about 20 to 30% don't show. They buy the tickets, it's sold out, but they don't come. And you go, oh, because they get scared. So it's sort of a bummer because you want the people, whoever gets ticket, to come. Sometimes it's tricky,
I found that people in Los Angeles have been more careful than anyone else I know. Like I was in New York for a lot of the early pandemic. People were obviously extremely sheltering in place then. However, there still was a bit more of sometimes a bit of a cavalier attitude. Like, look, we're going to go out. We're going to try to do this. LA seemed more lockdown for longer, but then this Netflix is a joke festival came, and like everyone I knew who used to lecture about like spray down your groceries with, like all those people are suddenly like at a huge brunch with Kevin Hart. Everyone went out. Everyone went out.
Funny.
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you. And, I always thought you'd make a good Dana. Wouldn't he make a good talk show host? Great monologue.
If he ever wants to do that, he's got a good
yeah.
gig going. I mean, as Malcolm gets older, you'll be financially so secure, you'll be able to pick your dates and pick how you want to work. You know, I go now. He won't miss you now, but you're going to want to be around when he's 7 and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those are those.
I talked my friend Dan Levy and I. A wonderful comedian and a good friend of mine, Dan Levy, and I talk often, Dana, about how, how you specifically, we were like, that might be the best life ever to name a corporate rate that is so high, but have so many people meet it. And you can edit this out if you're uncomfortable. Sorry.
Oh, no, not at all. No,
when you just kept doing, I was like, man, what an amazing, we talk so greedily about like, man,
well, I
to hear Carvey describe all those corporates.
I truly wanted to get out. Yeah. I wanted to get out of him. They kept saying yes. I kept going up and up and up and hoping I'd get out of him. But it was very.
I know it's the greatest problem I've ever heard anyone having, and we're so envious of it.
Well, it's a nice adaptive way when the kids are.
You were off SNL. You were living in Northern California, Marin, and you were naming the highest rates possible.
Yes, it was very, very good. I was hiding in plain sight, making more money than maybe almost anyone but like big movie stars, but no one knew. So they just figured I was broke. So that was good. But it's a pretty good schedule for a dad, because you could take 2 months at Christmas, take summers off, and just adapt your schedule to when you want to be with them. So anyway,
it is great. Are you guys going out? Are you guys on the road now too?
David is.
I'm on the road.
I'm doing a scripted podcast, finishing up, which is hard. It's like making the White Album. It really has taken a year to do it with my two sons.
Oh, right. I've heard on this podcast.
Yeah, so I'm working on that, but I'm kind of itching to do stand-up again. I don't know what I would say or what I would do, though, at this age, because it's like you don't want to be boring. That's the worst sin of a stand-up, I think.
It's hard.
Boring.
You don't want to be canceled, but you don't want to be boring.
You don't want to be canceled. You want to be honest. You want to be real. You want to be funny. But for me, doing small clubs with my sons, I figured out, for me personally, being a sketch player at heart, I was so much better in small rooms. I mean, because I'm doing these little intricate little characters and stuff. So I love small rooms, but big rooms play different. If they have screens, it's very nice. I'm sure Madison Square Garden, you're going to have big screens. There's sort of these like portrait length screens. They really do. When this tour started, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool, but is this going to just be like yelling in a hockey arena and everyone's like, what? But
they got to see the faces and stuff.
Yeah, the production, and my tour manager Beth, it's been made into a really good show, I think.
Yeah,
he's like, I have Kid Rock's trucker guy that runs the 18-wheeler with all my stuff.
My favorite thing about touring arenas is like talking to bus drivers
who they just had here.
Yeah, who were you just with? Like, well, Robert Plant, Steve Harvey, then you. And I'm like, I love it. I love that.
Have you ever gotten right before you went on dinged like that from some well-meaning crew guy? Last week, Sinbad came in here. I got to tell you, he took every local reference. He destroyed. Now Dana Flarfo. I mean, do you ever get dinged like that where it's like Chris Rock levitated this arena
I don't think he was trying to ding me, but I still remember.
No, not unintentional.
But Brian Dorfman, a booker, a promoter, excuse me, Brian, I apologize. You're a producer and a promoter and whatever other things you do. But I was backstage at Nashville Zanies, and we're standing there, and I'm really about to walk out, and he just goes, I remember promoting Pauly Shore, and when the door opened and the shadow of his profile hit the stage, I've never heard a crowd go crazier for. It's like as I'm about to walk out. I've never heard a crowd go crazier for someone, and it was the greatest stand-up show I'd ever seen.
I know they go on and on.
It was.
No one has ever done anything like this. Yeah, but you'll do fine. Yeah.
And then he pauses and go, "Hey, got any new stuff?"
I remember someone else at Zany's Nashville. I was like, at that same weekend. I was like, who are your favorite comics? And this woman, Ruth Ann, who was managing the club. I go, who are your favorite comics? And like a lot of people, this was like 2004, 2000, people would go like, oh, Attell Hedberg. People just list the same names.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she goes, okay.
Oh, here we go.
And I was like, uh-huh. Uh-oh. And I can't remember exactly the three, but the first was Tony Rock. She goes, Tony Rock. I go, okay. She goes, funnier than Chris. I go, okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh. She goes, funnier than Chris. Chick McGee, I think maybe. It was but the last one was Killer Bees, who's a...
Killer Bees, wow.
Killer Bees is is an American comedian not known to everyone, but she goes, Killer Bees is the best comic I've ever seen.
Funnier than Chris.
You need new material. You need new material when someone says to you, no matter how many times I hear your stuff, I still laugh. You need a new actor.
The sound guys, the lighting technicians, everyone I'm on this tour with is amazing, and they are very sweet about it. But they're like, as we're setting up, we just recite your jokes, and I was like, man, that's such a compliment, but it makes me feel like, so you're saying I don't have enough new stuff?
Yeah. All right, John, get out of here.
I like that.
Nice
I like that you guys are acting like I have somewhere to be, but I don't.
I know.
I keep making the interview longer.
I know, but it is fun because people like to hear from you.
Oh, one little SNL memory I have of just how big and inescapable the show felt was I was hired August 7th, 2008. And then we have the commercial writing weeks. We start pre-production for the show, not pre-production. We start, everyone's kind of back and we're going to shoot commercial parodies. Then we have the first show week, and the first show that I was ever a part of, Michael Phelps hosted, and it was the first time Tina Fey did Sarah Palin. So
all right.
Whoa,
that
was
fall,
huge.
SNL is like back kind of like to being when you guys were on. Like it felt like the 92 election again. It was huge. And it was on every magazine cover, and Seth and Amy are on every magazine cover, and Tina's on every magazine cover. It was so big, and we did these Thursday primetime update shows. We did 12. We did 12 shows in 8 weeks, and I just remember I was sitting in a taxi cab going home, and my eye was all infected from being awake so long, and a bus pulls up next to me, and it's a Gap ad with Forte, Sudeikis, Andy, Seth, and Fred.
Wow.
Yeah, like they did like a winter clothes, like scarves and hats. But I just remember being like, I can't fucking escape this show, and still haven't.
Yeah.
You never, it's a seminal moment in your life being in Rockefeller Center doing that thing with all the characters.
Well, yeah, it's like saying, hey, I used to play for the Yankees. Now I have a sports marketing company. Which would you rather talk about?
Which I'd rather hear about.
Yeah, that's true. There's nothing experientially or tactically like that show. It's
people
tactile.
always have a question about it, something about it.
That's why we're doing the podcast, and to hang out with people like you.
I love the podcast. I've listened to every episode. I was very flattered to be asked to be on.
You must have a lot of free time, or that's when you're on the bus or the plane, or
a lot of driving, and a lot of bus. Yeah,
he's used to that. We talk over each other, Dana.
John, Smartlist has 3 guys.
Did you like doing the live one with Sandler?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was.
We should have filmed it. It's fucking great. It was so fun.
Yeah,
different sport, but
but I'm whenever there's a live episode of a podcast I love, I'm like, this is like everyone's bringing out the big guns on this.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, you tend to perform a little more, but yeah, I if I put myself in the shoes of the, I'm there with Adam Sandler and David Spade, so there's a sense of like, I'd like to just hear what Adam Sandler had for breakfast. They want to know you as a person. The one thing we haven't done with you, we don't have to, because I always like to think of 10-year-old John Mulaney, because I like that. Favorite toy as a kid, or a toy that you remember that you really was important to you or you liked?
Oh, that's a good question.
Cocaine?
Yeah, but little bags of cocaine and rolled up dollar bills.
David had Stretch Armstrong, didn't you, David?
Yeah.
Or something?
And Evil Knievel. Stretch Armstrong was a fucking scam.
I liked anything with Ernie. I kind of, with Ernie from Bert and Ernie, I sort of realized later in life that Ernie was like, I thought Ernie was so funny. Ernie is really funny. He doesn't give a fuck, and his roommate's uptight.
Yeah. Which one's gay, Bert or... Oh, I think Bert is.
The rumor was that they were both gay.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's how it would work.
Okay, did you have a bike that was special to you, like in 4th, 5th, 6th grade?
I had a bike, which growing up in Chicago, like it's an easy city to bike around. And that was like, we already had a lot of freedom. Like we were a little feral. I just walked around the city of Chicago as a like 10, 9-year-old. Like we really could just go. I remember having a bike and riding it along the lake from my home to like the middle of downtown Chicago. And I was like, this is so much freedom. It's crazy.
It won't be like that with your kid, huh?
No, I mean, that's
Those
it's an interesting thing because Olivia
You want
and I
it to
talk
be
about
good
that.
for
We
your
want
kid,
it to
yeah.
be, but then I'm like, do I have the stomach for just being like, all right, see ya.
Do you have the Instagram followers? Can you handle what they're going to say about that?
Hey, leaving Malcolm alone on Michigan Avenue.
Yeah. He'll be home by when it gets dark like I did.
Yeah.
Is this a good idea? Question mark. Arrow to comments.
And you and Olivia haven't talked
Sound
about...
off below.
Sound off. Let me know.
Do you have ideas of where you would like to settle with the time school years start, or is it just completely wide open? You don't have to mention a town or anything, but do you think it's either Southern California, New York, or out there somewhere?
Yeah, we're very open to different places. You know, I mean, I feel like also me and Olivia and Malcolm have been on the road so much that we kind of, you know, we're in this place of like home is wherever we're together, you know? So.
Yeah. They're just so portable now. And you had told me once that you thought flying too much might age people. So do you take more buses and cars than
I said that?
people? I thought
You're
you said
always
that
saying
to me.
that. Always.
That you thought maybe flying too much was
sounds a little speedy, cokey talk.
Flying
Maybe you had some go-go juice.
Flying.
That's why we were jamming. We were jamming on the Mickey Rooney sketch when you said that. So I didn't know you were. No, I'm kidding.
No.
But I thought you said that. But
no, I do think that.
Most,
no, there's something like, you know how you feel when you get off a plane and your feet are all swollen and like your stomach's weird. I was like, this is not. You shouldn't do this constantly. Like bring a you bring like a half empty 20-ounce bottle of soda on a plane and put it in your backpack and then see what the pressure's done to it.
Yeah. It's not normal what it does to your body. I get done with
I'm at that phase of celebrity now where I weigh in on health theories. So I'm going to go out ahead and say that planes.
No one should be flying. John Mulaney, this we got our trender.
This week, drug addict John Mulaney said no one should be flying.
Flying is dangerous, and not because you're going to crash, but your body is going to be...
Neil Brennan said, when I first got back to doing stand-up, he said, you should be introduced. Neil Brennan said this. He goes, you should be introduced as, you know him from TMZ. Please welcome drug addict John Mulaney.
Drug addict is funny. Let's end on that one. That's funny.
All right, guys.
All right, John. Hope we run into you at some point.
Miss you, John.
Pleasure. Love you.
See you somewhere. Bye, guys.
Bye, Dana.
See you on campus.
Hey, what's up, flies? What's up, fleas? What's up, people that listen? We want to hear from you and your dumb questions.
Questions, ask us anything. Anything you want.
You can email us at flyonthewall@cadence13.com.
Howard Wright says he loves the podcast and the behind the scenes stuff. That's great. Here's his question, David. With the crazy efforts of bringing a live show on the air each week, did Lorne or the staff ever review the previous week's show to discuss what went right or wrong with the cast or specific performers or skits? Or is once a show performed, everyone moves on to the next?
I would start and say, I think the Monday meeting, we have the new host sitting in front of us, so we don't want to overdo it. But he'll be like, last week, Sharon Stone, I thought, pretty good. I like this. I thought Update was strong. I think this week, let's not let our foot off the gas. We've got Michael Keaton here today. That's pretty accurate, right?
That is accurate, but it's not like, to me, that reminds me of the NBA or something where you're going to watch the whole game with the team and start and stop it, Can I just do my impression of Steph Kerr, the coach of the Warriors, for a second?
Yeah.
I think Steph had a great game tonight. I think he was good on both sides of the floor.
moving the ball a lot, and I think Clay was active as well on the offensive boards. It's almost Bill Clinton, but fuck it, man. I can't get him every time.
Yeah. By the way, I see Steve Kerr like that. Now when I put it with that voice, and I go, it's a classic where you never even think of his voice until you just did it.
It's just a very rough voice, and all those sort of sports things. I think we controlled the boards in the first half. Our offense was a little slow in the second half. I'm Steve Kerr. Anyway, if there were sadness or recriminations, it would be at the party. And we beat ourselves up. We wouldn't need Lauren to do it. Be like, just laid there. That one sucked. Or I don't know what happened. But we do just move on. I just felt basically.
Like David wasn't on his game tonight.
Well, I thought that
stuff
Lauren,
like that.
Yeah, I mean, what Lauren would do, interesting enough, because Lauren was not heavy on compliments, but that like a good coach. But when he did compliment, it was a big thing. But in the Monday meeting, he would take some obscure part of the show and say, I thought Jan's exit was breathtaking. You know how he would do that?
I like the lighting and the receptionist. I think they finally got it right. Well, also, I think they have a pre-meeting for this young man who's asking, Howard Wright. They have a pre-meeting with just the heads of the departments. It's like, in my era, it was Downey, maybe Smigel and Franken. And then I think that's when they would iron out any problems, but I wasn't privy to that, if there was any. But you're right, Dana's right. We don't watch tapes. We're not like football going over and going, what about last week? We just like on to Cleveland. We just say, this week is whoever, and you're locked into it from Sunday on.
It wouldn't be like, I thought David was terrific in the receptionist guy. I thought he scored offensively, defense. He set up people. It's still
Steve Kerr. They should go to Steve Kerr at Update. Steve, how's the show going so far? Cold open was all right.
I think the teams. I think everyone's moving very well on their feet. They're committing to their lines. The cue card reading is a problem we're going to take care of in the third. I'm doing Bill Clinton, but fuck it. I had it the other day. I did it for a fan.
I think Opera Man went a little long, so I think we're going to have to pick up some slack after Update because something's going to have to get cut.
I thought Tim Meadows was terrific in the ladies' man.
I like Dana when you're doing a sketch. I was literally remember in my head walking in the hall in full Gap Girls regalia at about half hour, 1:45 in the morning, and they go, "Gap Girls is cut." Over the loudspeaker on the live show.
Because it goes
so it just means
long.
Everything went long and you don't have time. And I just fall to my knees. No! And then I cut my cheeks with my fake nails. Ow!
You were bleeding at the after party. You had a little napkin on. Get David a raid or something.
No, I walk up to Lauren's table at the after party in my full Gap Girls uniform.
Girl. Okay.
Yeah. Happy now? Wait, Lauren, you never told me to my face. Is it cut?
I remember that. You get drunk at those parties and you go up to Lauren's table and you'd be in the Gap outfit and bleeding and go, you don't know me. You don't know me. You think you know me, but you never knew me.
You blew it.
You blew it. I could be funnier than anyone on this show. Oh,
fucking Update sucked. Yeah. Okay, there's your answer. Thanks, guys.
There's your answer. Thanks, guys. Goodbye.
That was a good answer.